Ladies and gentlemen, family and friends, patriots all over our country that is under God, welcome to tonight's Red America First Town Hall, the nation's most engaging platform where we, the people, run the show. Red for the blood of Christ, America First policies and candidates. I'm your host, Ashley Weiss. Welcome to our podcast, Town Hall, where we gather with patriots across the nation to discuss critical issues and hear from inspiring voices weekly. For 3 years, Red America First has been the beacon for the unheard Americans, promoting values of faith, freedom, and family. Our mission is to spread the word of God, advocate for America First policies, and ensure that our voices are heard, all of Americans.
And I'm your co-host, Valerie Weiss. Tonight I am so excited. We have Derek Johnson, who personally is my favorite social media influencer, apart from my husband. Derek is a former U.S. Army veteran, country musician, and author of a #1 bestseller, The Midnight Rider Rides Again. He will give us updates pertaining to the continuity of government plan. But first, we have exciting announcements to make. We are launching our new podcast, Pastor's Point. Pastor's Point's goal is to teach and encourage others about the truth of Jesus Christ. Our goal is to share the gospel of Jesus and grow in the knowledge of the Word of God and encourage all to adhere to biblical principles. Our desire is to expose the enemy's darkness and deception at work in this world by engaging others in discussing the truth found in Christ. Preview this new podcast December 5th, 12th, and 19th as we journey through the All About Jesus series leading us into Christmas. Starting January 25th, this podcast will be weekly.
Friendly reminder, our team relies on all the support of our viewers and donors. We appreciate all the help. Even $20 could help us on a national mission. Visit givesendgo.com/redamerica1st/donate.
And for those joining the live stream, tune in for an engaging and informing evening as we work to amplify the voices of the unheard Americans. We look forward to grow our live panel. Panel members engage directly with guest speakers like Derek Johnson and participate in the famous state-to-state intel round. Sign up at redamericafirst.com, add your state, and that you want to be a panel member.
Everyone, let's start with prayer. Tonight, leading our prayer is going to be our Christian pillar leader, Teresa Wiggins. She'll lead us into prayer tonight. If all Red America First family members bow their heads, and we'll let Teresa lead us into prayer. So let's get her up here. I don't know what that means.
I don't either.
Derek Johnson leave? No, he's there. I don't see Teresa. There she is. So let's go ahead and get Teresa up here. And go ahead, Teresa. Thank you.
Thank you. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we lift this meeting up to you, Lord. We ask you to protect this from the evil one, Lord. Please allow us to just communicate clearly, Lord. I ask you to be with our dear brother and friend, Derek Johnson, Lord. I ask everyone to just to be able to understand, Lord, what he is explaining to us, Lord, and to take it all in. And I ask you, Lord, to be with our nation, Lord, especially with the Trump family and President Trump, Lord. Protect him also and his family from the evil one, Lord. Just be with each and every one of us. You know what's going on in this world, Lord, and we are so sorry for all the evil that's been going on, but you told us in your word that we would come to this time, the end times, Lord. So we ask you, Lord, to just help us to continue to be faithful and trust you and not get caught up in the fear, Lord. But just know that it's almost time for us to go home. So we should be excited and just look forward to that time, Lord. So I ask you all this in your precious name, and I thank you, dear Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much for that. Valerie, co-founder of Red America First, will lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you so much, Valerie.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Valerie. Now we're going to be calling on Leslie Mahan, our Oklahoma State Director of Red America First, to lead us in with the vocals for the National Anthem. Thank you so much in advance, Leslie Mahan.
You're welcome, Ashley and Valerie. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glow, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that a flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Amazing job, Leslie. Wow. I'd have to say that was a good job. Val, what do you think?
Amazing. Always amazing. Thank you. So, a beautiful introduction to start this interview with Derek Johnson. Welcome back to our podcast, Town Hall. We're excited to see you. We just got a message from your scheduler saying that you're kind of not feeling so well, so we don't have to keep you on all hours of the night or anything, but if you need to go, just let us know anytime. We just really appreciate it. We're all so excited to see you, so thank you. Our first question, as we're approaching the presidential election next week, we can't forget what happened in 2020. Our borders wide open. What's your take on the upcoming election? What do you feel might happen, or what's your take on it?
And thank you for coming back to Red America First.
We're so excited to have you.
Yeah, I apologize. I was feeling all right pretty good yesterday, and then it just, I think it's just mainly allergies. But those are the worst to me. I think I'd rather have everything else than allergies.
Yeah.
But I'm a trooper, so I kind of treat this like if we were still in the military. Sometimes you don't want to go to sick call. Sometimes the alternative is better than that. So you just troop it out. But yeah. So I try not to put predictions on things, and I know people like to hear what people like to think, but I think the thing that people haven't been focused the most on that they should be is the fact that, and I don't know who is and isn't reading here, and I'm not taking a poll either. But if you go back and look at the executive order, the timing of the executive order 13848, the timestamp of it, the timing of that was very important because legislation is one thing, but an executive order doesn't require legislation. And I've been reading, and I think if everybody go over and read this one particular article, I think it's 58 pages, so it's not necessarily an article, but it's a publication by the Special Operations Command. It's called Title 10 versus Title 50. And it'll give you a broad scope of the difference in Title 10, Title 50, CIA, Department of Defense, Secretary of Defense, presidential oversight, congressional oversight, and the differences. And of course, it's part of my part 2 of my book too, but it's still not secretive necessarily. I'm not going to hold back from it, even though it's part 2. It's going to be a part 2 finale. But when you look at Title 10 and then Title 50, President Trump utilized both. So you can, when you go read this Special Operations Command booklet that I'm talking about, you'll see both, and then you'll also see that Congress became a part of that as well. So it's a congressional oversight. The only way Congress could stop the president is to stop funding. But the cool thing is that President Trump didn't have to declare a war because this is a self-defense war. This is a self-defense, and he just circled back around at Madison Square Garden and said it again, that specifically the enemy is within. The enemy's been right here. Now, I believe they've all been taken out. I don't believe that they've been executed. I stand my ground on that. Personally, execution would be an easy way out at the moment in time when these people that claim they've been executed. I believe they're sitting in a padded cell like a sports bar where there's TVs all around and they're having to watch their demise as it's played out. That would be torture to people who thought they had a legacy, and also people with big egos. So going back to the executive order that President Trump put into place, the timing of it was very cool because I have proven, for those who go read or go look, he's never been a president by constitutional standards. He's been a wartime president by constitutional standards, but he's never been a president by constitutional standards. And you can go easily see that if you go to YouTube, and you can only do it via a laptop. You can't do it via phone. It won't scroll that far back. But if you scroll, the United States Marine Corps Band, President's Own, they didn't start their YouTube until 12 years ago. But there's not a single inauguration on there. And you witnessed with your eyes, you did see President Trump have an inauguration, but you also saw with Joe a funeral service. But there's no footage of that on the President's Own. And they're one of the most elite bands out of all the military because that's what the Marine Corps prides themselves in, is being the President's Own. And they'll walk around, and they do, and it's true, but they say we're the President's first choice. All right. And that's also true. But that Executive Order 13848, there's also a page you can go to. It seems like it's the Treasury, but I'll have to get the link and post it again. But you can go look at the sanctions. And Iran is one of the heavily sanctions under the Executive Order 13848, which is election interference. Iran. There's an article that was put out June 1st, 2023, from the Treasury Department, saying that Iran has had plots to not only assassinate president, but also their own people, Iranians. So that tells you that this is a joint partnership. There are good guys of every country out there. But this election goes a lot deeper than just your straight up ballot voting. You know, and I know people like simple answers, but it's really not a simple answer as far as just straight up. It just happened at the voter bots. This goes into deep reigns, all kinds of reigns that they've been running. But the simple answers would be like the swing states. President Trump in Traverse City, Michigan, before Madison Square, he said, yeah, they told me not to tell you, but, you know, we're up in all the swing states, but you still got to get out and vote. Well, the week before, trying to think where he was, but he's so many places, in 58 places in 58 days, it seems like. He specifically said that we have plenty of votes. We don't need any more votes. I mean, that's very, very key for people to hear. But what do most people do? That he says so much in a speech that he codes everything so much, people don't end up hanging on some of those things unless it's the topic of like what we're talking about now. But we have plenty of votes. We don't need any more votes. That is very, very, that's, if you're a liberal or whatever, and they did hear that, they're thinking this dude is cocky and egotistical, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But me, I'm saying that's your Executive Order 13848. We have it all. We've caught them all. No one could have caught them but me. Right? That was 2020. So that order put into place September 12, 2018 proves that they had election interference evidence from 2016 and prior, right? Because for him to bypass legislation and just straight up write an executive order and declare a national emergency, those are two key components to say, we have it, let's start it going, and trap all those and sanction all these people. And then that order will go into a court one day, if it has to show the people. And it won't be him having to validate himself. So I go by what he says. He said three different things that tie in at different times. Excuse me. So April last year, he was on a podcast. They were talking about the differences in 2016 and 2020 and 2024 elections. And he said a comment that, well, I think 2024 can be bigger than 2016. And then the host said, oh, yeah, most certainly it's going to be a lot bigger. And then President Trump says, yeah, because it won't be tradition. And he stopped right mid-sentence and then deflected to a whole different topic. He didn't say, but he was going to say it won't be traditional. It won't be a traditional election. All right. And then he also said not long ago in Vegas, he said, I hope the military revolts at the voting booth. Well, if people who have been listening to me knows that most of our National Guard have been activated, the Title 10 has been invoked. Well, a lot of these National Guard and also Navy components, there's been 3 naval units that's been stationed in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, Miami, Florida, and Mobile, Alabama. Well, they're not in their home states. So that means they got to vote absentee ballot. So all of these reserve components in National Guard are active daily. They may not be in their actual states. So they're going to have to vote absentee ballot. We don't vote at voting booths when we are in a situation like that. So that wasn't President Trump saying, I hope that the military goes and votes for me. He was saying that I hope the military votes. To the normal people that don't know what we know, that's why the word hope was in there. And then the last thing, recently, CNN about a week ago put out that said that President Trump is asking for anti-missile aircraft for the elections. All right. And Biden says, give the man whatever he wants as if he's sitting president. I mean, here's the man that a lot of people thinks. He says all the time, oh, Donald Trump's a threat to democracy. He don't need to be anywhere near remotely close to laws and orders. And there he is saying, give the man anything he wants as if he's sitting president. I mean, we don't need anti-missile aircraft for elections, ladies and gentlemen. So I know that the National Guard have been in control of all the elections since 2018. I can prove 2016, but they have definitely put out on nationalguard.mil 2018, 2020, and 2022 that National Guard cybersecurity teams have been in control of our elections. We don't run on digital. We run on analog. So we can capture it in live time and it can't be hacked. So we have the number of votes to the T of what everybody got, not just President Trump, but we're talking about local level, state level, and also other federal levels. So this is a lot bigger than just the presidency. This was for all of the rings being busted up. And why are the same swing states 2024 the same swing states of 2020? That tells you it's an operation right there.
Okay.
Well, thank you for that. I think this is a good segue to the next couple of questions. In recent discussions and posts that you've authored, you described Donald Trump as a wartime president. Can you explain this perspective, particularly in relation to the legal and operational framework, and then tell us about the 45-47 relation to military operations? Thank you, Derek.
It's not every day the host has to hit the little hand button for me to shut up.
Oh, that's okay.
So, great article. Once again, if you look up that Title 10 versus Title 50, you can learn so much about the president's role, commander-in-chief. There's always been a debate, and that actual article tells you that. It says you can take 4 military lawyers and ask them the same question, and they'll have 4 different opinions. And so that's why there's always going to be, maybe, I don't know, unless it's just a complete spiritual overtaking in another man, which I believe that is happening too. But there's going to have to be something that makes more people cohesive versus just having an opinion on things that shouldn't be that difficult. But congressional oversight, once again, the Constitution puts the powers of the president as commander in chief. And then the Congress, and it does say Congress is to declare the war but that's the funding portions too as well. And then the declaration, well, a self-defense and, peacetime, and there's a lot of other little things you can put in there. The president doesn't have to declare war. Now, in that same article, it will tell you that the last resolution to the War Powers Act, that's why I tell people all the time in my speeches, the 1941 and 1942 Powers Act is very important because in 1973, Congress tried to put limits on the president, and it backfired on them in a lot of ways. And that's what created more and more of that tension between the president and then also the Congress. And that's what leads to most of your answers. Because in 1951, Congress put term limits on the president, but not themselves. Why? All right, that's when it really went into a deep swamp establishment. In 1973, if you go read that Title 10 versus Title 50, it outlines that to a T that many scholars and people believe that the 73 War Powers Act is a violation of the Constitution because it tried to refrain and put constraints on the president and what the president can do. All right, so there's always going to be a discrepancy, but that is very key. There's a new Supreme Court document that President Trump put into place March 19, 2024. Now it talks about assassinations, but it also brings up Executive Order 12333, which is your intelligence activities, your agencies and things of that nature, what they're to do and what they're not to do. Well, when you go back on history, guess what two presidents got shot at? Gerald Ford and Ronald Reagan. All right, so you'll see that this has been a war all along the way in another manner, and it's just really festered and boiled up to where finally enough people said enough. But Gerald Ford put in Executive Order 11905 and Ronald Reagan put in 12333. This one, Reagan says what the three-letter agencies are supposed to do. Ford's shows what they're not supposed to do. And that will tie in that you've been watching an operation because everything that's happened to President Trump is all outlined in 11905 as violations of what the three-letter agencies are not supposed to do. All right, so it shows that President Trump would have activated, which he did, in Executive Orders Title 10, and then over in Section 1550 of the War Powers Act, he put in a clause, and it specifically says in the first 180 days after December the 20, 2019, and every 180 days thereafter. Well, that put a timestamp in there, which is kind of, I look at it in layman's terms, and if you see a gearbox and you look at a motor but a gearbox and you take a piece of metal and you shove it in there and then you weld it in there and that thing just it can't go any further. That's what President Trump did in another manner and Congress to show that we're taking over these war powers and we're cleaning out the way that most generals, believe. In that new court docket, it says combat generals, plural, and also other executive branch officials is a resounding no that they cannot do certain things. So like commit murder, order the military to commit murder. So that thing opens up, even though it talks about one little subject, that opens a massive can of worms as to the powers of the president. And so that's what President Trump did. He invoked Title 10, which is presidential, and then Title 50, which is your DOD and your Secretary of Defense, and it's got also clandestine operations, unconventional warfare, cyber warfare, a bunch of those. So they're using both. And then, let's see, the second question was about
the dash.
45-47.
Well, and, I always keep my hat close by. But,
that's awesome.
Yeah. I tell people on the surface level, this man's 78 years old. All right. Just a few months ago when everybody thought Joe Biden was real and he was running, the main core topic between the two with the normal world out there was, do they have the cognitive skills at the time that they take over January the 20, 2025, throughout the end of, so January the 20 and 2028, would they have the cognitive skills and abilities to be able to last that long? All right. So now I know Joe was an operation and a continuity of government and that, but for the ones that don't, do you really think that this guy lived 78 years to forget the difference in a comma, a dash, and an and? Right? That means 45, 46, and 47. That's 45 through 47, 45 to 47. That means I never left. And that dash, little bitty symbol, are all the laws and orders invoked by President Trump as a wartime president, which come with different laws and orders. And it's not as difficult as it seems. It's just there's certain laws in place that all go together that need to be invoked to go into the war and national defense of Title 50. And that's what's taking place. And it's not the first time in history as far as that two presidents have been used. That happened in World War II, puppet states and the government in exile, even though that president they used, especially the one I used the most in the Philippines, he was a completely different person. All right, Joe Biden is not the same Joe Biden. It's just a puppet, an actor. But this is not the first time in history government exile has been used. And in those Special Operations Command publications that I always talk about using, they outline government exile, shadow government, underground facilities, subterranean warfare, Title 10, Title 50, clandestine operations, unconventional warfare. And this was never going to be. And I think that's where a lot of people have, even my own people. I mean, I've looked at my Facebook, they don't share nearly what they used to share because people want a short answer, or if it don't fit their belief system, they don't think it's real. And then they also want to see some kind of action because the military has always shown action. But our military, that's where I was just on a show yesterday saying this very specific thing. I'm like, vets, we have to address the difference in war and service. All right. The war was guided by the wrong people all those years. They're now even trying to call the Korean War a Korean conflict because they know all their crap's about to be exposed. That these wars were never wars from Korea, and it could be argued World War I and World War II because that was a world war and there were powers that be after the corporation was set up. It could be argued those. And Lieutenant Colonel Bosey that I go on with and Colonel Sellos, Special Operations, former Deputy Commander Delta Force, makes a great, massive breakdown that they also were a part of this new corporation and Roosevelt and all them. Not every one of them necessarily, but a lot of them knew what was going on. And that's why they had resistance all along the way. But Korea, Vietnam, Lebanon, Libya, Syria, Bosnia, Kosovo, Somalia, Iraq the first time, they've all been fraudulent wars. They were not a threat to our Constitution. They weren't a threat to us. Right. And that's why that new court case that President Trump just filed March 19, 2024 with the Supreme Court opens a massive can of worms because guess what 45 adds up to? 9, 11. All right. Oh, yeah. So you take their playbooks from them. Gene Decode is someone that I was just on the show with last night. But you take Saul Alinsky's 12 Rules of Radicalism, and then you also take the Art of War, and you take all these things and you flip it on them. See, the enemy only plays with one playbook. They don't play with the Bible. They don't play with Title 10, Title 50, the Art of War. They don't do that. So that's what President Trump has done. That's why they picked an outsider that has a colorful mouth. He says what he wants. In any normal situation, if this was a normal 4 years, he wouldn't be able to say half the stuff he says. Because people would. Christians would jump ship. All these people would jump ship. Oh, I can't believe you said the F word. So if you look at it that way and you go study these playbooks and these handbooks, that's what's taking place. And it's not a simple answer to it, except for what's in place by military laws, military orders, and old playbooks.
Thank you. That's just a lot of it. That's great information.
Thank you for that. Town hall participants, please get your hands up and be ready for the Q&A. This will be coming up soon. Those on live stream, town hall participants will be able to engage directly with the guest speakers and also participate in the famous state-to-state intel round. Valerie?
Okay. Yeah, so I have one last question.
No, you got two.
I do? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I do, actually. Okay. So, do you think that there's a connection between Nasara Jasara and Trump's gold-backed digital currency and BRICS? Or are you familiar with that?
Oh yeah, I'm familiar. I mean, I think that I know what happened is they took all the playbooks of all the people that were gonna do certain things along the way, but to fit their narrative versus we the people, right? Because when all the Jassera and Nasara stuff popped up was still in the early 90s, which would have still been under the Bushes and Clintons and things of that nature. So that's also, once again, why that new docket, I mean, it opens a massive can of worms, because the question posed inside of it was, can a president order SEAL Team 6 to commit murder against a political assassination against a political rival?
Right.
Well, if you look at the last time SEAL Team 6 was involved with any kind of thing of that nature, that was Obama and Osama bin Laden. And then also in the same year, in 2011, because Osama was killed May the 2nd, 2011, guess who else was killed in 2011? Gaddafi.
Yeah.
Gaddafi wanted a gold-backed system. See, so a lot of these people were fall guys, and they pinned these things on these people. And here's how you look at it. West Point, there was an article put out by West Point, October the 15th, 2021. It's called Assassinations of the Law of War. And it lists Executive Order 11905 and 12333 that are now the main topics, the 1233 and the new court case by President Trump for assassinations. All right. Well, that opens a mass case of worms for the mere reason that when you read this article, there was a general who confronted Dick Cheney in 1990, and he said, Saddam is a one-man show. Why don't we focus our efforts on him and him alone? And Dick Cheney fired him effective immediately on the spot. All right. Well, that was 1990. Saddam didn't die. We didn't get him until 2006. Look what transpired between 1990 and 2006. 1991, September the 11th, 1991, George Bush Sr. had a speech where he dropped a new world order. All right. And then you have Bosnia, Kosovo, Somalia, all during the 90s. Right. Then we jump over to 2001 to the day. And so the day before, September the 10th, 2001, Donald Rumsfeld stands on TV and says that $2.3 trillion is missing from the Pentagon. Well, what else did the Pentagon have? And what did the World Trade Center have? What did Oklahoma City bombing have? They had all the evidence. They had the facts. So they had to get rid of their evidence, right? So all this stuff is an overtaking of the playbook and flipping the narrative on them. And when you invoke the laws as prescribed on paper, laws have always, every one of you are older than me, no offense. But I'm saying, as laws have been prescribed on paper, they've always read perfectly. They have not been enforced and carried out the way they should have been on paper all these years, because the swamp was in control of it and they created their own checks and balances, their own systems, right? Not people like me who reads it black and white for humanity's sake, right? I don't care if people are gay or Buddhist or smoking doobies or whatever, as long as it's not hurting anybody, harming anybody. I'm an open mind with people with their own household, because federal level's this thing, state level's this thing, locals this. There's a way to live and let live without infringing on everybody's rights and still have your own, no matter how extreme you are on the left or extreme you are on the right with your beliefs, right? As long as you're extreme at your own property, your own household, right? There's a way to do that. So all those years, Congress had created a problem they had a solution to, right? So the old saying, start a fire, yell fire, 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 and everybody runs to the fire, and then you loop around back behind them and you put the fire out, then they call you a hero when you're the one that started the fire. That's what Congress has done all these years. But it's also because people innocently, in a lot of ways, got complacent, quit putting laws and orders first, and also entitlements. Oh, you don't have a law degree, you can't talk about the law. Well, I can read that law book just as easy as a lawyer can. I don't practice the law. But see, before 1871, if you went and sat up under an attorney and you could read the law like they could, they go, okay, wow, yeah, you're skilled at this. You have the brain and you can read it like it's prescribed on law. You didn't have to go to law school. And then you didn't have to turn around and take a bar exam after you just went 4 years of law school. Then that makes a lot of sense, right? So when you look at what's transpired and then you flip that around, they've taken the playbook away from the bad dudes and flipped it on them, and it's all special operations. And when you go to that special operations command booklet from 2016, not the Title 10 versus Title 50, but 2016, there's a diagram in there, and it's got all these lines on it. And it's a I call it a pyramid. It's not a bad pyramid, but it's a diagram, and every line is every single thing you've all witnessed for the last 8 years.
Wow.
But it's an organic, but also a ethical and moral way of flipping the narrative on people. Because it's like Mark Twain's quote. Mark Twain says what? It's easier to con people than it is to convince them that they've been conned. And that's sad where we reached in history that we have to trick people again. But that's how they had to do it, was take over the playbook, flip the narrative on them. The war was never going to be between you and I. And that's what people have to realize, is that you do have to get involved, but the war was never between us on the ground. The war is between the alliances, and that's why President Trump said they're an invisible enemy and only we know who they are. So they went in by legislation. They invoked everything they needed to invoke. And then when they couldn't get something done legislatively, President Trump wrote 11 executive orders with 11 national emergencies. And then recently, there's a directive that has been butchered by everybody and their mom on the internet the wrong way, but there's a new directive for these intelligence agencies that just were put out September 27, 2024, all right, about, you heard people, oh, Joe Biden is weaponizing the military against the people. President Trump told you on the debate with Kamala, the ABC host, said, you've been talking about using the military to deport people. President Trump said, and law enforcement. All right, that directive in the very first page of the very first paragraph where it says purpose, it says implements Executive Order 12333 and Title 50.
Wow.
Well, there's your Title 10 and your Title 50 right there, because President Trump has invoked Title 10. He federalized the National Guard. They've been active every day. All right, and then Title 50 is your clandestine operations, your psychological warfare, and other things of that nature, like the quote-unquote assassination. So really fast, if I can, I know I'm going, but if I can, just one more point, is the assassination. Everybody jumped ship with me, and I mean, not y'all, but a lot of people jumped ship with me way back on July the 13th. I called on my veteran buddies. I said, let's get on a show immediately, right? One, they said that weapon that little pipsqueak had a certain stock on it. Well, AR-15s don't have that, all right? There's a certain kind of thing. That's all dropping to tell you that this is theater. Plus, at 166 yards, no way, Jose. I'm an expert shooter. I don't know if any other veterans in here want to tell what they were. If you don't, that's fine. But I was an expert shooter. And there ain't no way the little 20-year-old got up there and hit that ear within the first or two shots with an open sight. Now, we're talking about open sight. No scope, nothing like that. All right. That was just on the surface. But like we were telling people, this is a special operation. Everything is a special operations command. All right. Well, this new court case put out was 4 months before July the 13th. And it specifically talks about assassinations. All right. And it's got Executive Order 12333 in it.
Wow.
All right. Well, when you go over the special operations paragraph, that little pyramid I talked about, at the very bottom, it says assassinations, comma, forming favorable public opinion, parentheses, advocating national cause, close parentheses, comma, creation of distrust of established institutions. All right. Well, let's go back over that. Did everybody get pissed and mad and angry that they thought their boy was shot at? Checkmate. All right. Did it advocate a national cause, or did it just create a Pennsylvania cause? No, it created a national cause. Checkmate. All right. And then that last one, it says creation of distrust of established institutions. What did people do? They got mad, bitter, and angry. What did they start doing? They started getting mad at the Secret Service and the FBI. Well, who was in questions that week with Congress? The director of the Secret Service? All right. And what did she say? She told the whole world it's theater. They asked her a question. She said, well, in a normal setting, if he was a sitting president, yes, but it's continuity of government. See, it's all operations. It's a theater. It's a special operation. But for all the people that didn't know that, it did what it needed to do and got everybody's attention. Now, my dad didn't have to punish me too much when I was a kid. When he taught, I listened. But I've heard buddies of mine growing up, their dad go, boy, what do I got to do to get your attention? Well, sometimes it needed a little paddle on their rear ends, and I watched them and laughed my rear end off while they got paddled because I didn't have to get paddled, right? But sometimes it requires what? Sometimes different people need what? Different strokes for different folks. So sometimes you have to do stuff to get people awake and then say, all right, now that I got your attention, now we can have school. Now we can have class.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Well, speaking about operations, do you feel that Q is a military operation? Or I shouldn't ask
Oh,
that.
Man, that's a.
I'm
Well,
sorry. I just.
It is a sensitive topic with Red
I'm not
America
really
First.
asking you if it's. I don't know. I just thought I'd ask your opinion, like what you.
No, I'll give it. No, I'll give it. I mean, I think Q helped people learn to think more, like once again, special operations and then how code works and language. But I also believe that it could have been an interception of another plan because President Trump, the only thing President Trump has said about Q was specifically, he said, you'd be surprised. Then they asked him, do you know what Q is? He said, well, you'd be surprised. Well, I'm not his bosom buddy. I've been around him, I guess, 9 times now. I've seen his mannerisms. I've seen how he acts and, things of that nature. I like looking at body language. I like looking at the way he's a smart aleck too, which is fun because I am too in a lot of ways. And some people misunderstand smart alecks like us. But he's very calculated. He don't talk a lot. He does when he's obviously doing a spiel. But when you look at his mannerism when he said that, now, I have a video of him, a private video at an event where he says something in particular about a certain general. And it's the general that everybody thinks is a hero and gets all the ANON people mad and all whatever. But it's not friendly what he said at all. And it was recent too. And I'm not going to be the one to say it or do it because I think that may be low fish to fry anyway, small fish to fry as the saying is. But when you look at the history of Obama, Biden, and that, there's one thing I've never done. I've never said anything against President Trump or whatnot. Now, I'm not on that level either to be the one that would be advising him anyways. However, when you look at some of the components out there, I always use Benedict Arnold. Benedict Arnold was probably one of the best in our history. Benedict Arnold was George Washington's right-hand dude. George Washington would have trusted him with his life, wife, baby, everything. But what Benedict did, he had his own ego. He wanted to be the hero. He wanted to be the George Washington, right? If we break it down like that, if you just look at what happened. Well, he fought some key components of the Revolutionary War and won those. But then he died a traitor because he flipped over to the British and used the Americans, war plans against them. All right. So he started out a hero. He died a traitor. Now, I don't know. And this one particular general, everybody probably knows what I'm talking about. He may be playing a role, and I hope he is. But there's a lot of stuff that doesn't stack up well that says he ain't. And also psyops do exactly what they do. A psyop is 95 to 98% accurate, but it's that 2 to 5% that gets you. because that's the whole point of it. And if you read Sun Tzu's Art of War, it says all of warfare is based on deception. So see, it still goes back to President Trump implements everything as it's written, all right, and displays it as it's written. And then you go look at everything else, the secret military. Politico put out, or Newsweek, it was Newsweek put out in March or May 2017 about the secret military. Well, the way a secret military knows that you're also secret military is by your actions of what's on paper and the orders being carried out. But that's where it gets even more strategic. And that's why it's hard for the average person to comprehend. It's because a continuity of government, the 8 national central functions of a continuity government, one of the main key components is to keep a constitutional government going. Even though it's a continuity government and it's a different, unique scenario, it still says to maintain that, even though it's not operating as that. All right. So that's why you got to get real razor thin. And I mean, it gets down to like razor thin kind of optics and kind of comms, and also how these guys, there's this razor thin, like a CIA or a Secret Service, or those guys, they pay attention to the keenest little details, right? And in the average world, most average people, the enemy could be right around you and you never know it, right? Because you don't pay attention. And I don't know who you are. I'm just saying whoever it is, don't pay attention to details, you know, and things of that nature. Some do. Some do. That's why we have everyday average heroes when someone walks in with a gun or something in a store. But a lot of people don't. So this stuff is it ain't for the faint of heart, and it ain't easy either, because it takes true skill to catch some of these people. And that's why when you trap them and you use their system against them, when President Trump, and I'm quoting Gene as well, so I'm not trying to take away, he and I both are on the same page with this, but Gene Deco and a few others. But when President Trump says this guy's a good guy, he's meaning the polar opposite, because then you find out who stands up with him. Then you find out who stands up either with him or against him. All right. So that's why he does a familiar point. He'll do a point.
Yeah.
All right. So that's why a lot of people, you know, until you get into the special operation of it and know what is actually going on, and then also Title 10, Title 50, and the war that's been declared in another manner, it's not a declaration, but what is going on nationally, then you'll see that this is a lot, you know, it's not just a surface, go down to the voting booth and this, that, and other. This was to decentralize the banks. This was to implement new, systems, and then take all the stuff away from the deep state, the establishment around the world. Also put back in accountability, responsibility. President Trump says, why'd they keep hiring these people? Why'd they keep hiring them over and over and over? Well, that also has a responsibility on people. And, you know, people need to get mad every now and then. When people get mad at me for getting mad, I'm like, you must not read the Bible. A lot of people claim to be Christian. I'm like, you must not read the Bible where Jesus went in and flipped over the tables in the temple and was yelling and screaming, you hypocrites, right? So what's it take to get people's attention? And I think that's where we are.
So,
but
on the topic of clothes, you know, what about Trump wearing a black jacket, blue pants, golden tie, and a black hat? I mean, are those some symbols, or is that comms or something like that? And then we have Q&A. We got Oklahoma, Texas, Florida, Hawaii lined up. So please get your hands up, team. Go ahead, Derek. Thank you.
Yeah, you get your little song going. Undertaker, Undertaker, please drive slow for that body you are hauling. I'm pretty good to do that sick, right? But what did he dress like? The first time he said it, the first time he's ever uttered this out of his mouth, he's wearing a black jacket, gold tie, black hat with gold letter, and he said, Kamala doesn't even know she's alive, right? That's the first time he said that. And he said that wearing the black jacket, the black hat with the gold.
Gotcha.
And so he's showing you good with the bad, because he said this about a month ago or 2 months. He said, we're going to enter some rough days ahead. That was talking about the storm, because that's also a military operation. That storm, there's no Title 32 And the governors, that's all governors would be working with if that was just a normal natural disaster. And it wouldn't matter how bad it was, they would still operate with Title 32. When the Department of Defense tells FEMA to stand down and they send 5,101st Airborne by Title 10, that tells you that that is a military operation on the presidential level, because once again, Title 10 is the president. All right. So, and he's the only one who's federalized. So moving forward, he was telling us the days ahead. So that, to me, he said that night at Madison Square and Traverse City, he said that we're going into America's golden age. And he said it the other day, the Renaissance. We're going into a Renaissance period. Well, those are words people ain't heard since, if you were paying attention like me, when I was paying attention in school 35 years ago, that was words we talked about with the Renaissance period. Well, that means new birth. A new birth, right? So that's very key topics. And then he said a few other things all throughout the night that were very key and crucial that I've written down and whatnot. But it's just a visual of, you know, hey, Kamala doesn't know she's alive. That's the first time he's mentioned that.
Well, this is perfect to segue to the town hall Q&A, where our audience is able to engage with you directly. Derek, now we're kind of pushing that they have a 30-second limit to ask the question. Team, ask your question. Don't be like, hey, can you hear me? Just ask your question directly. And Derek will have a good 2.5 minutes to answer the questions. That way, a lot of patriots can get in and chat. So right now we have Wendy in Oklahoma. She is election integrity for Red America First. Go ahead with your first question, Wendy. Thank you so much.
Hi, Derek. It's good to see you again. I've been reading through your book, and I'm going through, especially looking at the election situation here. So I was listening to what you were saying earlier about the elections being on analog. I don't understand. We're still seeing all kinds of anomalies throughout the country. Could you explain a little bit about what's still going on and why we would still be seeing this? Also, the committee that was formed by President Trump in Executive Order 13799. It looks like the DHS was trying to head that off. Do you have any questions about or anything to comment about that?
Well, this is kind of like the same thing. I had this question. There was a guy in South Dakota a couple of weeks ago. He's with the election board in, I can't remember where, South Dakota, but and his first time, I think he had heard me, which like I think was a little brutal for him. But you know, like I say, now I use this, and I'm gonna show it again. Even though it's not going to end right here, just pretend for right now that there's a parameter there. That is an operation. That is a strategic operation. So just pretend there is a fence here and there's a fence here. That means there's a strategic plan in place for that. All right. So there's a lot of people out there. I mean, by the dozens of podcasters as well, and they have no clue what's going on. And I believe the reason why God put me where I'm at is because I don't use Q. I know what it is. I have a belief on it. But I'm a retired veteran. And I didn't get to serve as long as I wanted to, but I'm a veteran that operates for common sense, and I'm also a veteran that operates with military law, military orders, military regulations, military customs, and then how they pair with executive orders, national emergencies, proclamations, and then also treaties. It's really that simple at the end of the day. It's not simple when it comes to breaking it all down, but it is that simple. That is a defined parameter. That is a defined, I don't like using the word playground, but that's probably the best word to do it. So that's a playground for the military. All right. So President Trump has been saying about the early voting, and he said it at Traverse City, I believe, or maybe Madison Square, but he said it in both of them in different ways. He said, how many of you are early voting? And the people roared. And he said, how many of you are going down traditionally to vote on election day? More roared. He said, that's the way it's supposed to be. But so people have asked that, and that's okay. But this is an operation. All right. The military being in control, you're not going to see that component. You're not right now. You're not going to see that because they operate on their time and their schedule, but also they're in the operations over here. So all the election committees, you're still to be doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? And then trying to catch discrepancies and things of that nature. Because I think yesterday a USPS worker got arrested for harvesting, I think 60,000 ballots or something crazy, destroyed them. So there's going to be that, but the military overall is in control of that. They know how many registered voters there are, all right, and they also know what's being done lawfully in every state, all right. But for it to show that there's the swing states, the 7 swing states of 2020 shows you that this is an operation because the deep state always had these swing states. And that's what they created. And that some people naturally died, so they had to replace them that way. And then some people, I hate timers. I see that timer up there and I can't answer. But so it's like a time test. But that's
Sorry,
that. But it distracts me. And on test, I had that timer in there. But you have all these things going on in every state: early voting, this voting, that voting, this voting. They already know how many they need. That's why President Trump says we have plenty of votes. We don't need any more. We're focused on the cheating. But that's the military, right? That's the analog. Analog means just our, when I say our, I wouldn't cyber anything in the military. Every military, we have all different kinds of teams. But our, meaning our systems, the military system, they have a system that will be catching those in live time. Meaning that if there was some entity that President Trump talks about, which they're organizations, they're not me and you. It's not regular everyday people that change these votes. It's organizations and entities that work for the swamp, right? So they can tell who's trying to hack their system if there is someone trying to hack it, right? Because they know that this is a war there. That's what the war is. The war is not between your average everyday, go tell them, the voting booths, whatnot, the precincts. All right. So it's the Smartmatic systems, the Dominion systems, and things of that nature. Like some places still vote old school. There's not every state. So that's why only 14 were deployed in 2022, I think, 14 states, National Guard. So it ain't every state. It's, but that's a big conundrum. But all I can say is that this is a playground, and that Executive Order 13848 was to catch all that. And it will, I don't know if it's going to come down to Supreme Court. I don't know. But there's a Supreme Court docket in place, 23A75, I think it is. I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. But it's about Jack Smith and President Trump. It says how a federal office can only be created by Congress, not themselves. So that brings down the House on all of Congress and also Joe Biden and Kamala to all the people that don't know what's going on by law and order. So that shows you that this is all an operation.
Perfect.
And you just got to do what you got to do on your levels where you are and learn what's in place. If they come in and they implement something new, I don't know. I don't know how it looks. I don't work in that field. But I know that President Trump and these teams will have something in the future to go, here's this, here's how it's going to be done. And I do believe it will be same-day voting in the future. I don't believe it's going to be like this forever. I think this is the last rally to catch that. The same thing with Ukraine. Ukraine was also to see how many people were still funding. So you get as much evidence as possible, then you present it to the people. But
that gets us to a good spot for another question from Oklahoma.
Huh?
This is our chapter leader, Leslie. Go ahead with your question. Thank you.
Derek, my question is, why are there so many military planes flying low over residential areas like mine? We had 4 to 7 the other night.
Good question. Thank you.
well, what kind of coffee do you have, and what were you cooking that late? Nah, just kidding. Oh, well, I mean, they're in operations. I mean, and that's the thing is that I don't know the missions, and no one in the military or veterans would know that. I mean, that's why a lot of people get depressed when we say, well, I don't know exactly what they're running. However, when they're running that low, that means that they're not, if it depends on the helicopter, depends on if it's a regular aircraft, fighter aircraft, what it is. but they're running operations, and sometimes it don't play out until 2 or 3 weeks later. For example, Reno, Nevada, 2 years ago, I was watching a Chinook over in Lake Tahoe, but it was the northern part of Lake Tahoe, not the southern, and it was running the inside of the lake, and it ran it. I mean, it made, I don't know how many circles. Well, I Googled every single day, Lake Tahoe, Chinook, military, law enforcement. I did that. 3 weeks later, there's the article, but it was Lake Tahoe News. It wasn't Sacramento or Reno. It was just a little bitty tiny publication. You know, they put out that 9 sex traffickers were busted and arrested by military and law enforcement. So that's going on. And I tell people all the time, I mean, it you know, they operate in places and ways that you would never dream, and you can see it and hear it. And they've been doing that. 2020, people living in Nebraska, they had these water spouts that were busting up out of the middle of nowhere in the middle of the fields. And I mean, farmers out there are going, we don't have any geysers out here. What's this all about? Well, that was subterranean warfare, pushing through water and cleaning out tunnels. So they've been doing this all over the place. And President Trump alludes to that with D.C. I mean, of all cities that we talk about crime, Chicago would be one, Detroit would be one, L.A. and like Compton regions, you know, even Memphis has a lot of high crime. But President Trump talks about D.C. all the time. We're going to restore D.C. He was like, it's got a lot of crime there. It's had a lot of crime. And he's talking about what was under the White House, the tunnels and things of that nature there. So, you know, it's been every day. And there's aircraft flying daily that can give you some kind of substance sometimes, like the, let's see, the, I'm trying to just show a blank, the bacon. So it looks like it says bacon, but BACN call sign. It's a aircraft that helps when certain soldiers on the ground can't communicate with each other, like they lose communications and things of that nature, and it'll fly around. So that's been flying a lot. It's also been flying on the Atlantic coast a lot, so that should tell you what's been going on subterranean-wise. A lot of mountains over there, so a lot of tunnels over there. Also, they've been showing, every year they've shown a bust happen at Disney, and that surprises me that more people haven't shared that more than anything, but every year they've shown a big bust of arrests from Disney, Walt Disney World down in Orlando. When I was down there in 2022, they had 109, I think it was, arrested. You know, so they'll tell people too, they'll say military, they'll say Disney's being shut down for a few days, but it's just routine, military's coming in. Since when is military routine? And since when do we get vacations like that? Man, they didn't give that to us. Like, they didn't say, hey, want to go to Disney World? Yeah, no, I don't work like that. Military don't work like that. So all these aircraft, and that's when you got to study the aircraft and what they could be doing. But there's an emoji you'll see every now and then. There was one in Kentucky the other day. It looks like a regular tiny aircraft, but it'll be flying black, which means it can't be traced on radar. But it's from Spain. You know, we wouldn't have that. Operation Noble Eagle don't work like that. Operation Noble Eagle is when we know an aircraft is coming in, and they'll say, okay, you know, Kuwait's coming in from such and such, going to be going to here, here, and here. When you got aircraft flying around and not picked up on radar, and they're also all flying in mode S. If you go scroll down on, I use the Globe B ads exchange, but if you scroll down, they're all flying mode S, which means they're private, and ATC knows of something in that region, but they don't know what they're doing. So that means they're under an operation by the Department of Defense.
Perfect. Now we have a question from Texas. We have Doug, Texas. Go with your question. And all those that are watching live, again, go to redamericafirst.com and sign up that you want to join our panel, and you can engage with guests just like Derek Johnson. Please go ahead, Doug. Thank you.
Good to see you again, Derek. I really enjoyed your book, and I don't have any deep or pithy questions to ask you. My question really is around what's the kind of thing that you've run across that, you know, because I would imagine there's many late nights out there, you know, and you have an aha moment. What are some of the more obscure things that you have found really interesting that you don't mention about too much?
Oh well, there's not really a whole lot, but there's probably some that they never told me I can't talk about it. So I've never been told I can't say it. But I was sitting in Mar-a-Lago in April, and we were sitting on a round table. We had a special guest there that I can't talk about, but if you just think just a little bit around President Trump, you could probably guess who was sitting there, and closely related to him. And but we were sitting there with Ryan Garcia. He had just won a big boxing match, and we were sitting there talking, and I kind of was distracted because anytime I get to eat Mary Trump's meatloaf, I get distracted anyways. And so I was sitting there, and I wasn't paying attention, and my buddy under the table starts punching my leg, just like guys do. I mean, hard too, like jabbing me, and I'm like, dude, what's wrong? What's up? And he goes, look. Well, it's always when President Trump's entering the building, he comes in full Secret Service, and Mar-a-Lago looks like a horseshoe when you're sitting there. So it's like this when you're sitting there. And so there's the entrance where my cowboy hat would be like that. It's like that. So it's like a big horseshoe, and there's a pavilion that goes around that horseshoe. So they run around that pavilion. It was 5 of them, 4 outside perimeter, 1 in the middle, and it was a big black briefcase. And I mean, anybody knows what I'm talking about knows exactly what that is. That's your nuclear football, and that's your nuclear codes. And so that tells you what happened January the 20th, 2021, when the mainstream media, now they're under a wartime code as well, 47 U.S. Code 606, but they're under a wartime code where they're supposed to do certain things that the president directs, and what they put out to keep people distracted. But they were saying then, President Trump's not going to be there for the inauguration. He has a nuclear football with him, but there's another football. No, there's not. That's the dumbest thing. That would be, you talking about a massive breach of national security, and that would be catastrophic, because if the 2 men or 2 people ever went toe to toe with each other, and they abused their power for sure. So that was a big visual. That's stuff that I don't really talk about a whole lot, but that's a big visual to say who's in control and command. And then also it shows you the real President Trump that I've been around is the real President Trump, and that's the hardest thing for people to wrap their minds around, that the guy you see at the rallies is the actual double. You wouldn't put the double in a parameter of being shot, and then also he brings the grandkids on the stage a lot. All that's theater for you, but still, the real guy's over here, right? And anyway, I think that's probably the most secure. I'd have to really think. Other than that, I mean, it's not really. I haven't encountered anything really crazy yet. Nothing too crazy.
Well, perfect. Our next question is coming from our Christian pillar leader, Teresa in Florida. Go ahead, Teresa, with your question. Thank you so much.
I don't have a question. I just want Derek to know that I really appreciate him. I follow him every chance I get, and I'm looking forward to all these things happening. And I just want him to know that I really appreciate his service.
Oh, that's nice, Teresa. Thank you for that. Derek, you accidentally muted, but go ahead and respond.
I didn't want to cough. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that. It's an honor to, to me, I'm just getting a Serbia on my service. I never dreamt God would do it like this, but I argued with him for so long in my life that I'm not doing that anymore. So I just go where he tells me to go, and I feel like he gives me stuff. I mean, one of the odds that I stumble over everything I'm supposed to stumble over whenever they put it out, because there's a lot of information, but just like that court case, it wasn't heavily searched. It was on page 5 of Google, so it means not many people knew it was there. And so I just feel like God's allowed me to serve beyond my service, and it's an honor to do so.
Looks like we got a couple questions coming in from Hawaii. Susan, go ahead with your question. Aloha.
Aloha. Derek, I wanted to just pop in and thank you for your service and your continued service. What you're doing and you're showing out there has just been epic. Just the continued documentation. People are just a lot too apathetic to want to read past, 5-10 minutes. So they're losing so much content. So the fact that you're out there pumping it out, it's just been amazing. The beginning of COVID when we were all locked down, what was it? 2021 Patel Patriot came out with, I think, the first thing, a devolution, which was just such a sensation. And since then, you came in, picked up the scepter, and just, man, it's just been amazing. So I just want to give you credit. I know you've taken a huge beating out there, and you have been so steadfast. So I just want to let you know how much we appreciate you. I've got kind of a loaded question. I'm going to try to roll 3 questions into one because I get like some other people there. I've got lots of questions, but I just want to.
That's not allowed. Pick one, please.
Yes. So, coming from Hawaii, there's a lot of controversy, where we are. I understand, or I've heard that Commonwealth has been dissolved. Those are, some of the Five Eyes nations, New Zealand, Australia. Of course, we know the Crown has been kind of dissolved in its own way, and which is, thank God. Canada, but Hawaii falls under that scepter because they've always kind of leaned on the Crown for their own sovereignty recognition, which of course a lot of that's the ruse. I just wondered where we are with that. What do you see, in that respect, about Hawaii, the archipelago in particular?
Well, I think people have kind of, and I'm just speaking in general, but I see so much stuff out there with the sovereign nationals and the this and the that and there's a certain group out there saying they're the group that President Trump's talked to and this, that, and other. And I'm like, there's another guy out there that says he's the commander in chief. I mean, there's so much stuff, and I'm like, well, I look at God as a sovereign, I don't know what God looks like. None of us do. I grew up in the South believing just like what I grew up believing. But then when I got out and traveled a little bit, met a lot of different people, realized how big God has to be. But then again, the Bible's never been proven wrong. And, the other side will say it's never been proven right. And I'm like, but it's never been proven wrong. And that means more to me than anything. And then I have more visuals every day to show that there is a God more than an atheist does, that they don't. I mean, the wind, you got a guy there with a graphic with a palm tree behind, and the wind's blowing through it. Can you see the wind? No, you can't physically see it, but you know it's there, right? So a lot of this stuff has been cluttered. And what I try to do is declutter for people, because at the end of the day, the military works on military laws, military orders, military regulations, military customs, and then they pair again with executive orders, national emergencies, proclamations, and then your treaties, international treaties. All right. So you'll hear people talking about all we got to dissolve the corporation before we can do this, this, and this. And I'm like, you're missing the point that our nation was founded, wasn't perfect, but our nation was founded by a group of men who wanted taxation without representation and freedom of religion. That was the 2 key components of why they started the war. All right. And so now we have representation and we got a lot of taxes with it. And all we got to do is flip that back to we the people. All right. I think a lot of people get too distracted with the titles and the this and the alliances here and the this and the that, the United Nations, the European nation. The European Union, all these things, versus when you wipe it all out, like President Trump and them are doing, because that's what the capitulation tour was. It is the monarchy being down, but that was really the monetary system as well. So you take London, the Vatican, and DC, and they were all intertwined. All right. If you go to the original Articles of Confederation, guess who was in that? Canada. All right. So, there's been a lot of stuff along the way. And I think that what may happen, I don't know, but I'm just speculating, is whenever they completely annihilate, which they have, but when it's ready to be exposed that this is what we've done and this is what we've embarked on. President Trump said it at Madison Square Garden. He said, we've been in this war for 9 years. 9 years, ladies and gentlemen, takes you back to 2015, which means the Law War Manual reissued and him rolling down the escalator. We ain't been in war 9 years in a layman's term for the average American. If you walked up, they'd say, oh, well, if they even knew anything, they'd say 6 or 7. 9 years puts it back to when he was chosen and he came down. All right, because they knew, the swamp knew what that man was called to do, and there was not a thing they could do to stop it. All right, except to try to do what? Rig the elections. Well, that's when the military took over. There's no other way. There's no other way that Donald Trump got in just by regular votes. They prevented the Democrats from cheating. They didn't add votes to President Trump, so that's where your ethics have to come in. But they did prevent the Democratic National Convention from cheating. That's the only way they would have got him in there. But it was all done ethically because, once again, military. Military comes first in our nation. Thank God the Military Justice Act, even though that was all planned too. But look at the timing of that. You look at June 2015 and May 2016, the liberal Supreme Court, Ginsburg and that crew, they're the ones that put the Military Justice Act into place, that separated military laws and courts from federal laws and courts. That is very, very huge. That is saying for the first time what all of us veterans already knew. We were already separate. We knew that. But they put it in straight up congressional saying, okay, there's always been a question, yada. That was a more liberal Supreme Court then who did that. So that sets your tone to go, I think what they're going to do, possibly, a lot of that stuff will fade away in history per se. And then we move forward with the new parties, because I don't think we're going to have a Democratic Republican Party anymore. I may be wrong, but I think there's going to be an eye-opening experience for everybody, and we can establish what we the people want and move forward based on our foundation, keeping our integrity of our foundation and our laws and norms intact. But I think that these party things, I think people have had enough with that. I may be wrong, but I think once the general public out there grasp what is taking place, and when they feel that power, as President Trump says, like the abortion topics, it's a tough topic. But when people realize that you have more power on state and local levels versus federal, then more people will get with the program and go, oh, my voice goes a lot further with state and local power versus the federal government, because once again, it all depends on who's interpreting the law. So I don't think that Hawaii and all this stuff has anything to worry about as far as that goes. I think that the bigger picture is wiping out that establishment and that swamp, and then getting control of legislation again, getting control of everything, which they've done that, and then moving forward with what we the people want. And I believe we're going to see a lot of taxes, which he's already said, income tax. There's no such thing as a tip tax. That's income tax. He said, and on Joe Rogan's show, he said, we want more. He said, are you really advocating for no income taxes and all tariffs? And he goes, yes. He was like, why not? Because then other nations will do what? It will make other nations go more to their own independent sovereignty as well and keep things within their nations as much as possible. And then we'll trade where we have to trade. Like if someone don't have wheat and we have wheat, okay, we'll trade you. But if you do, you should want to keep it organically in your country. So I think that when we eliminate all these taxes, we're also going to eliminate a lot of laws that's been put into place that were null and void by Marbury versus Madison. So I think that that's the key focus. I don't think it's so much of the sovereign this, the sovereign that, the state this, the state that. The key is getting the Vatican drained, London drained, and DC drained. Those are your key three components that had a constraint on the whole world.
Perfect.
Thank you. Yeah, that was awesome.
We got Brandy in Ohio has got the next question, and then we got some more Nevada. We got another Hawaii question. Go ahead, Brandy. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That was awesome, the explanation. I do want to ask you, so I ran across this recently. It's a website called members.republic for the United States of America I think it's let me see .org. It looks like you can actually sign up for a basically revitalized republic government and be a part of it. So I don't know if anybody else has heard about that, including you, Derek. But if you have, do you think maybe that's the end game if we can get everybody on board?
Wow, good question, Brandon.
Well, I don't mean to. I mean, those are tough to answer because there's a lot of those groups out there, and they're saying, "Come join us. We're the new republic. Come join us. We're the new republic." I don't look at it that way, and here's why. We're one nation under God, right? So if we're one nation under God, that also means it can't be, like these individual groups popping up. Now, when I think all the people once again realize what is taking place lawfully, first off, this is all done lawfully. When they realize what's been done lawfully by the United States military, where they had to act, and then also clandestine operations and other things, I think once people see that, and then they see their economy booming, taxes removed, laws maybe abolished, especially national emergencies that are, terminated.
We got 40
I think
on here,
that's where people will, see their America that we know it. And President Trump has a 1776 commission report, even though they made Biden, quote unquote, abolish that. That was visual purposes. Because when you go read that, it talks about George Washington Carver, it talks about Martin Luther King Jr., it talks about, Rosa Parks and different people, right? So I think when people will look at it that way, that we're gonna have our republic didn't necessarily go anywhere. It was just overtaken by a swamp that started controlling DC. All right, and DC became your focus, not laws and orders on the government side, not the representatives representing us, because that's all a representative is supposed to do. They're a representative at the federal level by us on the state levels. But what happened was all these Americans quit learning legislation, quit learning about bills and what bills affect their region, their state, and then federal. And that got way out of whack, way out of balance and way out of whack. And that is what they've overtaken and are sorting back out, getting everything back. That's why with President Trump, he was phenomenal in his endorsements. His endorsements were impeccable. Like if you went to Vegas and wanted to bet on that, I mean, he was impeccable, right? So all those people that he endorsed, you talking about getting mad. There were people that I knew that were going to go vote against who he endorsed. I'm like, you're missing the point of the operation. All the people that he endorses are the people that he wants in those positions to carry out this operation, right? And so that's the key thing with that. And I just think it gets dangerous because in history we have examples of Jim Jones, David Koresh. We have examples of people who, if you don't know their motives and what their intentions are, we have power and things of that nature, they get in the way. And what I'm saying is the military by whole is a massive group of people, and the military works on a liberation, but also humanitarian. And because it is so big, it only needs a few people up top directing it. And President Trump has exemplified that. And the generals, Keith Kellogg and others that are around him, Paul Valalay and McInerney, all these men have exemplified that by the laws, but also by our foundation. That's what matters. And I just think that there's a lot of these groups, and I think they mean well. I think they're not seeing the bigger picture here. They're not seeing what's actually taking place. And I don't know. Now, I don't worship President Trump in a bad way. I keep God first, Christ, and my family. But President Trump, by everything, by military laws, military orders, military regulations, but also as prescribed by the law, the Title 10 and the Title 50, he has exemplified that to a T.
Wow, so that was a good answer. We got a question from Nevada, which, by the way, Stay tuned in the state-to-state intel. We got election data updates in a lot of swing states. Go ahead, Ron, with your question. Thank you.
Derek, thanks for being here. Appreciate you and your insight. I don't know if this is out of your wheelhouse. It's about election integrity, but I watched a podcast put on by Ann Vandersteel, and on that podcast, they were explaining that the votes that are done on the machines all go to Serbia, and in Serbia, they use the Huawei computers, which is Chinese, to sort all these votes and stuff. I was just wondering, have you heard anything about this? Do you know anything about this? Like I said, this might be out of your wheelhouse, but I just needed to ask this question.
Well, I've been on with Ann, and it's been quite a while back, and a lot of these people don't have me back on because what I talk about seems to be too in depth for them, and it shouldn't be. They should be studying everything that's in place. Everything that I talk about is all public information. I do add obviously, I guess, my intellect to it around it, but if you go back to November the 4th, 2020, there was a 4-star general with President Trump, but 4-star general. He put out a tweet that day, which is also in my book, but he said, we have our NSA and our cyber command with our joint partners all around the world watching in hopes that we learn what we learned from 2018. All right, so that tells you military is in control and also all around the world of the voting. And they also know that there's been interference from all different nations, absolutely. But that's also why President Trump has Executive Order 13848 and the sanctions on it. Iran's one of the heaviest sanctions for interfering. Also, China, the Chinese Communist military, that Executive Order 13959 with the national emergency, always have national emergencies attached to them, by the way. So that Executive Order 13959 is the one that froze all the assets to all these people. It's over 3,000 pages, not names, but 3,000 pages on your sec.gov, which is your Securities and Exchange. All right. I mean, we're talking about all these people being frozen. So they know who's been doing what and whatnot. And that's the key thing is that, that's going to be hard unless people do go see the Title 10 and the Title 50 and where the president, we're operating in a self-defense mode. We're operating where self-defense didn't have to declare war, but there is a war going on, and that's what it is. But it don't matter where the votes are going, they already know that. And that's why that 4-star general is very key, and the NSA and the Cyber Command. And then also President Trump has the full power. Well, let's say president. The president has full power over all of your intelligence. And you can go read that in that Title 10 versus Title 50. So he's the one that can prescribe things, take away, do whatever he wants to do and whatnot. So that's when he says we have it all, we've caught them all. That was in 2020, right? We have it all, we have caught them all. No one could have caught them but me. Well, he's the outsider, and the outsider is very key as well. Because he's an outsider and he wasn't a politician, that tells you what? That there's a military in control of this. President Trump is smart by all means, but he has a military backing him that has captured all this and has flipped that narrative on the world. And so this last election, this next election, President Trump has alluded once again that this is going to be the last time we do it the way we do it this way. And it's just to get all that evidence to show people. But it also had to make people mad. Let's just be honest. It had to make people mad and bitter and frustrated and all the other things, because that's also part of special operations, is getting people involved the right way, right? And involved in looking at, like, if you have a discrepancy, if there's someone tossing votes, or if you see someone carrying a box, if it's old school ballots, you see them walking out the back, and they ain't supposed to walk out the back. It is still ongoing like that. Like I said, there was an article yesterday or day before, USPS driver. I'm starting to think the USPS too have been shuffling my books around, because I've got a lot that's lost in transit. So I think they're all tied in anyway, but they have been. And President Trump has an executive order about the USPS. So, yeah, it's all part of a massive conundrum that's been going on for years, right? And they know who that is. And we'll find out. Like I said, it's not out of my wheelhouse, but I'm not on the operational theater part of it. I just know what's been put in place and what they do. And those wouldn't be put into place if they didn't have a means of going to either court, a Supreme Court, and deciding that. But we will find the answer.
So now we got a question from Hawaii. This is one of our pillar leaders, Megeso. He runs the corruption pillar, Red America First. Yes, our organization is going to call out a lot of these politicians and high-level government officials by name with receipts, and Megeso is running that group. So if you're wanting to be a political referee to the system, join RedAmericaFirst.com. Megeso, go with your question. Thank you.
Hey, Derek, how you doing? Trump also mentioned January 5th, which might be a Supreme Court mandate for election on one day. And the sovereignty of nations, that was also Trump's first speech to the United Nations as well. My question is really, I know you track a lot of air movement and military movement. Are you observing, tracking, or seeing any unusual naval, air, or military movements in and around the Hawaiian Islands?
Oh yeah, there's been a lot of movement in and out of Hawaii, going back and forth to Guam and going back and forth to the French Polynesians down there. Also going back and forth to New Zealand, going back and forth to Australia. Some going over to Japan, some going over to South Korea, so I've been watching a little bit, and also Indonesia, Philippines, etc. There's been a lot of movement over there. Of course, the earlier movement, probably 2 and 3 years ago, were Diego Garcia and then Christmas Island. I hadn't seen a lot of that. I saw a lot of go in and out of Atoll Islands down there. A lot of French aircraft. And then recently, there's been a lot of German aircraft in India. Germany, and then France, a lot of French movement, Italy, over in the Indonesia areas, things of that nature. I saw a Brazilian aircraft in Russia the other day, that was also very interesting. The Chinese version of what the aircraft of our Doomsday plane has been very active out of Beijing, back and forth to South China a lot. And of course, they always go off radar pretty quick, so you don't really get to see where they go. I've also seen some Taiwanese aircraft going back and forth on the island. And then there was a lot of movement back a year or two ago with a certain aircraft, which would be special forces. And you could see, it's not really a secret at this point, but like it'll fly, and then when it hits a direct L, when you see the L at that point of that L, that's where the ship is located. And they carry the call sign password. So that's how you know the password. That's where you know where the ship is located. And I showed a mother that has a son who is special forces, special operations. And, I'm like, there's no way to know which one your son's on, but that's kind of, it's not a secret, but just some people don't know that. But I don't see that a lot anymore. There's been a lot of just usual aircraft. There used to be a lot of aircraft leaving New Zealand going towards Antarctica, and I hadn't seen any of those lately. But that was very interesting. But nothing really bizarre right now. Nothing that I would say.
Perfect. Now, thank you for that, Derek. We're going to get our last question of the night coming back from Oklahoma. The first go back. Wendy, go ahead with your question, and then Valerie will close with her question. Thank you so much, Wendy. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thanks again, Derek, for being here. I'm sorry about your allergies. I was feeling that way just last week and kind of getting over it myself. I have a question. You have said something in your videos about going back to the common law. Is that what you're talking about when we go back to Marbury versus Madison, 1803? That situation, we end up back there. we're basically going to need the common law, I think, because a lot of statutes are going to be gone. So can you talk about that a little bit?
I agree. And then also what's kind of humorous about all of it, not in a good way, but also not necessarily in a bad way, but when you go look at some of our statutes and things, they actually reference Black's Law Dictionary, which is kind of a contradiction to what they established. But it's kind of like what Gene says and a few other people. They got to they have to display their evil to you in another manner. They have to put it in front of you. So, matter of fact, what's holding my laptop up and see if I can hold it, but it is the Black's Law 11th edition. Which I highly recommend everybody reading. It's not it's not To Kill a Mockingbird, but it is still very informative. And let me tell you, what's cool about that is also once people do grasp the Title 10, the Title 50, the special operations, the military portion, because that's not easy when you're not military, but it's also not easy when you maybe are a Hallmark kind of person, right? Because military my mother don't like reading certain kind of books. And I've recommended books to her before that are not military, but they're just like maybe, I don't know, they're different. But she's more of an Amish love story, Hallmark. Well, she don't like that kind of stuff that's real over here, right? And then military, it's not fun if it don't come easy for you. And if it don't make sense, it's not going to be fun. But once people see that, then you go look at what they've done, common law. So they've already said who's they? Well, they don't identify themselves, but they said all the law schools are going back to common law. The bar exam is changing back to common law. And the other thing that's cool about that is recently, I have to go back and look up the article. There may be more by now, but there was a lawyer complaining. He said, we have been teaching law school all these years, and now they want us to change our curriculum. Well, who is they? That they has to be so powerful that all of the law schools and all of the lawyers across this country are going to have to adhere to it. That is United States military. That is judge, advocate, generals. That's your judges from the military. That's your JAG. And when you go read that Title 10 versus Title 50, it'll also outline the JAG and their components and what they're to do. And they're the ones who advise certain components of Title 10 and certain components of Title 50 if they can and can't strike, if they can and can't move. So it's really cool to go read that, and it will give you a lot of insight on, that. But it's already showing up. It's already showing that exam's changing. And then also they're getting rid of the logistics. If anybody's ever seen that, I could pass it, but oh my Lord, logistics don't. You're like, what's this have to do with like learning and talking law? It really gets you to think differently. But it's going back common law, which means common people. And you're right. And then also Megeso talking about January the 5th. I'm glad you brought that up too. That also ties into everything. Is that they're going to simplify everything, and we got to. We have a law for a law for a law, a tax for a tax for a tax. And it's just like we're playing bumper car law and bumper car life. And that dirty establishment, they passed so much stuff that I think they forgot what they passed. And everything just started doing this. And finally, their swamp was so hypocritical that it was able to walk in and establish something that is okay. We can overtake this. We can do this, 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 and this, and that's what they've done, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we really appreciate you coming on our show, and our final question is, would you come back?
Yeah, and I hope I feel better because I'm a lot more fun when I feel better.
No, you were great. Thank you.
Honestly, Derek, you have a lot of following, and Red America First organization definitely appreciate you coming on. You have a lot of information in your brain that a lot of people can't really comprehend, and we really appreciate you connecting those dots.
For sure, 100%.
We'll have you come in the future. So
Well, I mean, I don't know I don't know how many friends and family enjoy me growing up, but I'm glad y'all do.
Well, before you leave, I do want to coordinate something with you. Hopefully, we want to do a book signing thing here for you in Florida. We've already kind of mapped it out with a lot of patriots. So we'd get you in Orlando. We would have an event. We go to Tampa, have an event. We go to the Villages, have an event. We go one more secret place. We want to kind of do it in a December time frame, and we want to talk to you on the phone to why we want to do it in a December time frame, but probably in the middle, not too close to Christmas, but more in the middle. So let's talk about that, because I really want to help work with you on that. Okay.
Well, the good thing about December in Florida is you still don't need a hoodie down there, so that's a good thing about that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'll be in shorts, unless it's like one of those 30-degree nights. But really, think about it. Let me know how to coordinate with you directly, because Val's the event coordinator, and we kind of have it all kind of blueprint, and we have it all mapped out for you. So I think it'd be a good opportunity, and we also want to kind of have a little Christmas twist to it. Trust me, you'll like it.
No dirty Santa. I don't like losing at dirty Santa.
This is all.
Yeah, we're
this
not
is
about
all.
that.
This is all on the positive side. So
I don't like people stealing my gift. I always get the gift, and I try to act disappointed, like I really don't want it, and people still read through me.
He's talking about Red Elephant Party.
Oh.
No, we got something better than that. But please, let's coordinate and let's get this book signing in December. We think we could work it out with you. Okay.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Derek. That's Derek Johnson, folks.
Feel better.
And
Thank you.
We're gonna transition now to the state-to-state intel. Holy smokes, that was a pretty exciting episode with Derek Johnson tonight. I want to kind of kick off our state-to-state intel tonight, all about the election. Okay, we're gonna start going over the battleground states and how the picture is looking really red and positive for MAGA in some areas. Some is still kind of scratching the head a little bit. But before we go into this, I have an election integrity issue that's got brought to my attention. Those that are listening live, we need to spread the word because it is a very sensitive subject. Now, I will put a preface in there. Let's just focus on the R and the D and all that in relation to the ballot. So let's bring that up real quick. In Ohio, a central county, I'm guessing, Franklin. Go ahead, Brandy. Tell us what's going on with this election integrity issue before we get into the election data, because I do want to share some good news. Go ahead, Brandy. Thank you.
Okay, great. So as many people already may know, that's part of this group. I've been running for State House of Representatives in District 9, which is in Franklin County, Ohio, which is in Columbus, and some other parts around it. Yesterday I received an instant message from a local Republican voter who I don't know personally, who felt it her duty to reach out to me directly to let me know that when she was in the voting booth yesterday, she admitted to me that she did not vote for me because she is true Republican, down ballot all the way, won't vote for anybody but red, which is, that's fine. But she basically said that because there was no Republican running in my district, because there isn't, it's me, a libertarian, running against a Democrat. And she said that she didn't make a choice there. She just left it blank and moved on to the next part of the ballot. After she did that, she noticed that the machine had lit up my opponent's name on her ballot as if she had actually pressed the button when she didn't. She reported it to the pollster or the person at the Board of Elections, the poll worker, and they first told her, "Oh, no, you pressed it too hard." And she's like, "Oh, no, I didn't press anything." And then they're like, "Oh, well, it's just a glitch." And so because she, felt like she was kind of discredited, she left the voting booth really upset. She filed a complaint with the Secretary of State, and then she went home. And as far as I know, she hasn't heard anything back from anybody. But she did tell me and reach out to me about this. So that's kind of where we're standing. We have vote flipping going on in my district at the state level, and that is absolutely confirmed. As far as me, it's probably not just me, but I'm sure other races are having the same problem in the local level here. So.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
I think it happened here in our district too with a person that was running for Congress.
So you're saying if they just skipped it, let's say they
Yeah.
only went presidential and skipped everything else, it's going
That's
to
right.
automatically fill D?
Yeah, it's going to fill in whatever it wants. So
Whatever
that's
it's
they
told.
call that an undervote.
Thank you for reporting that, Brandy. That is very sad news to hear. That, but that's not shocking, right? We kind of opened tonight's show with Derek Johnson with that preface. Look, 2020. Remember the stuff in the ballots? We saw them stuff the ballots. You know, the whole COVID thing, wearing a mask, and you can't identify who those people are. Right now, here we are, border wide open. We got illegals roaming the streets. They're, doing whatever they're doing to the cats and dogs and all these other things, and cars, crashing all over. But we already know that they're going to.
Yeah, they're already stealing.
Because
cheating.
Someone, I'm trying to remember who, but some big companies, I think it was the IRS. The IRS had a hack, and all these Social Security last fours went out or something like this. What do you think the legals are going to use? They're going to use someone that's not on the voter roll, and they're going to match someone that's not in the voter rolls with the last four, and they're going to give that to an illegal. All right, go. Now you're a U.S. citizen. You're Jane Doe, and your last four is 6969, right? So, don't be surprised if we have another water main break in Fulton County. Don't be surprised if the next day you wake up upset again, because we didn't fix 2020. Real quick on that, Wendy, do you want to chime in? I did ping you to see if we know any Ohio people. I do have Dr. Frank, just so you know, Brandy, we do have Dr. Frank on your situation as well. So if he updates me with any information, I'll update you. But Wendy, you're our election integrity leader. Who can we get on this in Ohio to help besides Dr. Frank?
In Ohio?
Yeah, that's Franklin County.
Let me see. I actually don't know of anyone in Ohio besides Dr. Frank that would be able to help with that personally, myself. There are, Brandy, do you guys vote on machines, or do you have,
yes, they're machines.
You actually have the machines. So they're voting for people is what you're saying.
No. They're just ignoring certain races, and it's automatically selecting Democrat.
Yep.
Okay, so it's flipping, or it's basically.
No. They were no on their selection, but the ballot spit out D selection.
Yeah. So basically, Wendy, if you went in and you decided, well, I'm a Republican, true and red, I don't ever vote for any other type of party, and you don't see your party on there for your state race or your mayor race or whatever, and you decide, I am just going to abstain from voting in that particular race in that category on my ballot.
Right.
And what's happening is the machine is, when voters are doing this, are automatically selecting the Democrat candidate.
Okay, so people are not voting in those races, but they're having someone that's what I meant. Sorry. That's what I meant to say the first time. So yeah, people are having races voted for them that they are wanting to leave blank.
Yes, correct.
Okay, yeah, no, we can't have that.
Wow.
That is something.
Here we are. They're just scraping.
Okay, I'm just gonna say, call your local sheriff, report it to the sheriff, make sure that happens.
Yeah.
Get anyone this happens to fill out an affidavit to make sure they have a legal and lawful document that they reported it, keep a hold of it. And then what can happen is when people like Dr. Frank or others call for evidence of issues in the 2024 election, that's when those documents are going to be produced. that's probably your best bet there. But make sure your attorney general has a copy of that, or it's been reported to them, your local DAs, however your election laws in Ohio work. But make sure you report that to the sheriff, because that's just unconscionable. And then make sure all of your representatives know that's going on as well, and your state senators, the governor, just report it to everybody on down the line. And but make sure they report it to the sheriff, get the report, and sign an affidavit, because that may be needed later. So yes, that's exactly what you should do in that case.
Perfect answer. Thank you for that, Wendy. We're going to go ahead and go over some of these states really quickly in relation to 2024 election data. So Nevada, surprisingly, we're having a huge, interesting data that's came through, an advantage for Republicans. So make no mistake, a lot of states that do early voting, they have internal numbers that they all kind of like share. So Valerie and I are working to get more than just the states that we currently have, but we're able to see what the numbers are on the Democrats, what the numbers are on the Republicans. And right now, the Nevada data is looking good. So Sandra, Holly, Ron, all those that are listening in the state of Nevada, your state's coming around. Right now we're leading in early voting for this effort. And Sandra has a question related to this. Let's make sure you guys got your video on. We're live. So let's see. Go ahead, Sandra. What you want to add to that? Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say I voted today.
Oh, nice.
Did you get your sticker?
Yeah, I got my sticker and I put it on my car.
Nice.
I had to vote today anyway. I had to vote early, but yeah, I agree with that thing about voting early. I think that's a good idea, because they can keep track a little bit better of what's coming in. I know that they see numbers, so that makes sense. Let's follow it through and see what happens. Because something before we didn't follow as closely as we should have. And I think that we're a lot wiser to a lot more things this time.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
So, yeah. And I was just going to tell you, like, this doesn't have anything to do with Nevada, but Marjorie Taylor Greene posted something on Twitter. It said, "Breaking now, Donald Trump just won the election by saying he will give full back pay to all military who lost their job because of the vaccine." We're talking already about where they will come back and get their full payback. Yeah. This is massive.
Wow. Thank you for that update, Sandra. That's a good intel to share. Trump saying this and helping out those military members that did escape the poison and say they elected that they wanted my body, my choice. What happened to all those women that were saying my body, my choice? But in any event, I do want to bring up something to kind of make the team laugh a little. So you may remember the rep Swalwell, right? So if you get tampon 10 with Swalwell, then you have a big bang, and it's with Fang Fang. So it's like, anyway, it's Wang Wang Fang Fang Bang Bang Party, something like that. But anyway, so Nevada's looking good. New Jersey, surprisingly, I'm not sold on Velarde's idea, but he sent me a text today. New Jersey's data, we're kind of creeping up, leading the early voting numbers, the early poll numbers. Also, like to report Georgia. Pennsylvania and Georgia were a little bit behind, but in relation to comparing to 2020, we're ahead of ourselves in the sense of, we're doing better than we did in 2020 at this point in time. Arizona data is looking good. getting a lot of positive numbers with Kerry Lake's team in relation to this. Florida, as you guys know, should be a slam dunk Trump. Florida is Trump's headquarters. It's White House, in my opinion, #1 at the moment. And then not too concerned about Tennessee, not too concerned about North Carolina. But, you know, Wisconsin, Michigan, we're still looking at those numbers. As you know, they're deeper blue, and those numbers aren't really trustworthy. But hang on, we got a question with Teresa, our Christian Pillar
I'll
leader.
just comment that I've heard Trump several times when I go to listen to stuff that he is saying that he feels that Florida is doing it right. #1. And #2, I also heard him recently say, so y'all don't want the IRS, you know? So that would make my day to see that all these 3 letters go away, including them. That's it.
Agreed. Thank you for that, Teresa. So let me go ahead and lower your hand there. So, Megeso, real quick, we're going to call on Hawaii really quick. And also, Megeso doesn't know this yet, but we are working on, everyone's very interested in learning the hierarchy of law, all the different laws, and how the corruption department and how you, the unheard American, could deal with a corruption issue yourself. And Megeso is going to have this big, cool, amazing video footage coming in 2025. So we're excited to announce this live with everybody, that our corruption department is growing. So Megeso, on that end, you're working on a couple of things already that's came in the Red America First pipeline. We'd like to hear about that, and then also what's going on in Hawaii. Thank you so much, Megeso.
Yeah. Well, we're not, monitoring the elections that close here in Hawaii. That's handled by Ralph Kushner and their group. Hawaii is probably going to be blue on paper, but it's really red. As far as what we're working on, pretty much it's the human trafficking is the main issue. Can't really go into too much detail on what we're uncovering at the moment, but people are well aware of the fentanyl and trafficking issues here in Hawaii.
How about MMTLP with Scott? Aren't you working that too?
Steve texted me the other day. He didn't send me any follow-up material yet. I've joined I'm already on the e-court, so I can look at the cases that are taking place. Still waiting to hear back from the people dealing with Conyers and East Palestine as well. So in the meantime, like I said, I'm focusing on the trafficking because it's really hot right now. It's really coming to a head, let's say. So,
well, thank you for that.
It's almost like your politicians. We can't talk about cases that are ongoing.
Gotcha.
Right. Sure. I like that. So since we're in Hawaii, Susan or Carrie, do you guys have anything to add to that on the Hawaii side? Go ahead, Susan, with an update.
Oh, okay. Just briefly, touching on what I spoke about last week about some of the infighting in the Hawaii Republican Party. We have uncovered an outside agitator. Just closing the gap on that a little bit, and then I'll be communicating that to Miguel. So, but none of it would be surprising. And just trying to clean house and just bring people to the forefront that are, trying to cause the mess they are, and just to repel people away from the Republican Party. There's a lot of sabotage, a lot of desperate measures here, as you know. So that's kind of what's going on at the moment.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that, Susan. Carrie, you got anything to add? If not, we're gonna call on Doug, Texas here to get an update.
Well, I went and early voted yesterday, and there was a lot of people there, so it's good to see him. And this year it's going to be the first time my husband is voting, so he's going on Saturday. So I'm excited about that. He was kind of, he never voted before. I'm like, yeah, but don't you want to be on the right side of history? And
that's the right side of history.
Right?
I use that line all the time.
So you have to, and he's excited to vote. So he registered. I got him to register. It was the last day of registration on the 28th. So he's going to vote on Saturday. So we're excited about that.
Very cool.
Yeah. And my son too voted.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Very good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that update. That's good to hear. Hawaii, all the way Hawaii, is the price is still really expensive at the grocery store for you? Oh, Carrie's gone. That's okay. Let's quickly transition to Texas now. I'm gonna pin Doug up here, and then all the other Texans get ready. Let's hear what's going on at the southern border. Doug's got some update on a gang that's allegedly been in the area of Austin area and others there as well. Doug, thank you so much, and other Texans get ready.
Yeah, well, what he said is correct. Tren de Agua is here in San Antonio, same as it is in Aurora, Colorado. And I've talked to the police. They are taking over 4 apartment buildings over here in San Antonio. And primarily, though, they're not kicking anybody out. These were abandoned apartments. So the cops haven't been that interested in them, but they are gaining more interest in getting rid of them right now. So Tren de Agua was here. The things that are happening at the border have calmed down quite a bit. They think in anticipation of Donald Trump, getting in. So things are slowed down quite a bit in certain areas, and then of course picked up in other ones because they want to make their last run at what they can do. And then as far as voting is concerned, early voting, there are lines around the block waiting to get in this year. Lots of people, usually you don't have any kind of wait whatsoever, and it's averaging about 2.5 hours.
Wow.
And this is every day. 2.5 hours wait.
So you're seeing big numbers, is what you're saying.
Good.
Yeah.
That's great.
So, and unfortunately, right down the road, when I was pulling into my neighborhood, I saw a Harris Waltz sign. And I didn't know whether to kill them or just mark them in my head for, okay, those are idiots down the road. So, if they ask for anything, well, to hell with them.
Don't forget that, Doug, that you need to build your coalition on the border, and we need to get Ken Paxton on. Please.
Yeah. Yeah, we're building it up. We're starting to see some other people that I know of several other people that are going down to watch the border starting in January. So that's going to be happening, and I'm probably going to be going back out to fabulous El Paso and Laughlin bases here shortly. So probably early next week. Spend a couple of days out on the road, 2 or 3 days. Ain't no place close in El Paso. Ain't close here from San Antonio. 7.5 hour drive, and then so when I get out there, I usually like to spend my time.
Understood. Well, just try to remember those actions, and we love the updates that you give us, and let's monitor that gang. Becky, Texas, what do you got to add to Doug's report on the state of Texas? Thank you.
As far as the voting goes, here in Corpus Christi, we've already reached 26.7%, which is very high, unprecedented. And They have caught at 2 voting places. The monitors were telling people that they were not allowed to have a piece of paper in their hand, which is not true. You know, you can take your own personal voter guiding with you, so they had to report that. And something I've noticed, not concerning voting, but buying men's cargo shorts at thrift stores. I've been doing that for the last several years, size 32, 34, and 36, year round. And for some reason, I noticed that at the very beginning of the summer, there were no men's shorts, those sizes, available at any of the thrift stores here in this area. So I'm assuming that they're all going to the illegal migrants. There was one particular thrift store that had 3 racks, probably 40 feet long each rack, full of those sizes, and there's like 0.
Wow.
So I just thought I'd throw that out there, something I noticed going on. And that's it for me.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for that, Becky. Sabina, do you have any updates on Texas? I'm going to wait a couple seconds here, and then we'll transition to Alaska. I think I saw there was a Mark, so let's see if I could get Mark to chat about Alaska. Mark, are you there? I see you. See if you
Oops.
Oh, you unmuted for a half a second, and then you muted yourself again. So let's try that again, Mark. Hang on. Let's try again. Now you can speak.
Okay, am I unmuted now?
Yeah, what's going on in Alaska? Tell us. And how did you like tonight?
Snowstorm. Our first snowstorm of the season is upon us, and there's about 6 inches of snow on the ground already. And we're going to find out if Suzanne LaFrance, our new Democrat, I assume, mayor, is capable of doing the job that she blamed the prior mayor, Charles Bronson, of not being able to do.
Wow. Well, I don't know if there's any congrats in order to respond, but, I guess congrats to the snow falling, but I don't know about your Democrat mayor. I don't think they're going to be America First as a priority. What's your nearest city?
I'm in downtown Anchorage.
Okay, you're in Anchorage. Okay.
Yeah, I actually live in the Alaska Pioneer Home.
Okay. How did you hear about Red America First?
I ran across you guys on Telegram.
Oh, so Derek Johnson is advertising on Telegram, or maybe
it might be
even Val's War Room. But Mark, please join our team. Be part of the panel. We need the support in Alaska. All right.
Well, I thought about it. I don't know if I'm capable of that at the moment.
Oh no, it just requires you to come on. Whenever we have a meeting and just chat with us. That's not a big deal. It's not too much heavy lifting. Just like what you're doing right now. That's it. No big deal.
Okay. Well, I woke up completely paralyzed on my 64th birthday.
Oh no.
And then I ended up figuring out that I'd had a stroke, and ended up being in the Providence Hospital for 2 weeks, learning to use my hands again, basically to dial a telephone and order food, and then to eat the food. And within 2 weeks, I was able to use my hands again. And then they transferred me to the St. Elias Physical Therapy Center, over the next 2 months, they taught me to walk again. And I've just recently started to get my brain back.
Wow. Well, we're praying for a speedy recovery, and you're looking like you're doing good. So, gosh, keep it up, and let's cheer this man on. Good job.
Well, I actually have something I could post in the comments. I wasn't going to, but I can. I have a GoFundMe for my situation.
Okay, yeah, definitely post that, and we'll help get the word out. Thank you for that. That's Mark out of Alaska. So let's get Rosemarie. She's out with one of her buddies. She said. Let's see if she can unmute. Rosemarie, you want to give any Florida updates, or we're gonna have to call on Paula in South Carolina?
Yes, I will give Florida updates. There have been a number of irregularities that have been going on. 17 of the counties have Dominion machines, and those are a problem. Other counties aren't having that many problems, but I did hear from one of my friends, a friend up in Georgia went to vote, and she voted Republican all the way, and the machine came out all Democrats. So she complained, so she voted again. The same thing happened. It happened 3 times before the vote, her vote was correctly done. So the irregularities are going to exist. And what I would caution everybody to do is to make sure when they vote, if they vote on those machines, to get the readouts. It won't happen as much on the written, when you have your written ballots. However, it is happening in some of the other areas. So I am very concerned about that. And also, we need to get the votes out. I think most of you, I think you sent out the special October edition of the newsletter. And now I'm doing the election edition for November. And that was a really good one, the October one for the special one, the second one. And this one should be very, very good too. So we need to just get the word out. If you have the special one, that has a lot of information. And it should turn people around to vote for Trump. It's let's face it, it's a propaganda one. So we need to get that out. So that is what I would do. And other than that, that's it for Florida.
Thank you, Rosemarie. And yes, those listening in, you could get this new election update newsletter that got transmitted out today, and we're going to be adding it to the website. We need you guys to know what's going on in relation to elections, and that is our editor-in-chief, Rosemarie. Thank you, Rosemarie. Tom, now a Floridian, moved away from a blue state that was under control of tyranny. He left Pennsylvania, and now he's in Florida. Give us an update, and have you voted yet, Tom? Thank you so much for coming on tonight.
No, I didn't vote yet. I'm going to go down on the Tuesday at my the clubhouse, whatever they call it. They have voting down there, and I'll do that. I almost should have voted early because my vote might have been counted. I don't know. I don't trust any of this, But yeah, I just hope Trump wins, and we win if Trump wins. And it's just, I was watching CNN tonight. Kamala came on, and I just wanted to throw up. Listen to her lies and everything. The people going, woo, 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 woo. cheering her on and stuff like that. It made me nauseous. It really did. But you know what? God's in control, and that's all I care about.
Yeah, amen to that. Thank you, Tom, for your update. We're going to ping on Joey. I think Nevada. Go ahead, Joey. You wanted to chime in? Go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to say yes. I agree. God is in control, but so are we. We got to get out there and vote, and we got to bring our friends to make sure they vote too. But I want to tell you about a couple of things that have been going on out here. I'm a poll watcher, and I have friends that are poll watchers. They did their watch duty today, and there were poll watchers that were flown in from California who supposedly represent Nevada. They flew in today. They watched their own cheating, apparently, and then they flew them back home. Also, there's people in Philadelphia that are being sent home from the polling places early in the Republican areas and told to come back tomorrow. We ran out of this, so we can't do that, or we run out of this shit. And there are people here in Nevada that were scheduled to work the polls who canceled to go to the rally Thursday. Kind of sad. I'm scheduled to work Saturday. I'm leaving early, and then I'm going to the rally. Also, maybe you know, maybe you don't. Nevada will count all mail-in votes up until November 9th, even without a postmark. Got to clean this shit up. And we're not winning yet. We're not winning until we're done. That's what I have to say. What do you guys have to say about all that?
Well, Joey, that does sound like an interesting scenario there. Let's get some feedback from other Nevadians to see. Ron, what's your feedback on what Joey shared, and do you have any update? Sam Brown seems to be getting some good numbers. So if Trump's getting good numbers in Nevada, that's what my data shows.
All right. Well, Sam Brown's behind with Jackie Rosen, and yeah, the Republicans had a strong turnout in Nevada voting. They're kind of ahead, but Sam Brown's race is far from good. I made a couple of photos to remind myself what to say. Federal judge dismisses GOP lawsuit to institute new checks on overseas ballots. One seat could determine Democrat supermajority in Nevada. Poll averages show Rosen leads Brown in the Nevada Senate race. Governor Lombardo activates National Guard for Election Day. With 5 days to go for early voting, Republicans leading in Nevada. That's my update.
Thank you, Ron. Appreciate you. And is it getting colder there yet?
Oh, heck yeah. Got the wood stove going. It's going down to about 19 tonight.
Oh, man. Winter is coming. And that's not just a Game of Thrones line. Okay, thank you for that, Ron. Paula, South Carolina. I'm trying to unmute you or go back. Latran, I didn't get to call on you either. But if not, we could just move on to Oklahoma, and we'll let Leslie kick off with Connie and others in Oklahoma. Go ahead, Leslie. Oh,
I'm here.
okay. What's going on in Oklahoma? I'm going to add Connie into this mix and also Wendy. Oh, okay. Connie, you guys want to give me an update in Oklahoma? Go ahead, Leslie.
Okay. All right. So we've had fires today. They've been messing with our weather again, we're being heavily sprayed ahead of our early voting, which starts tomorrow. We have tornadoes in the forecast tomorrow if y'all haven't been paying attention. And it's just a lot of craziness. But we also have some really cool things that have been happening too, where we've been doing drive sign waves and all kinds of things for Trump and other patriots.
And what's happening with this, Wendy? Leslie's reporting some shenanigans, right? And Connie, unmute. You go after Wendy.
Yeah, and the issue with the weather out here is a little bit crazy. It's been dry for the past several weeks. If people remember, I believe I was told the area of North Carolina, Western North Carolina and Eastern Tennessee was very dry for a few weeks prior to that hurricane coming through. And that was a bit unusual, I guess, for the time of year, but it rained after being dry, and then the hurricane came, which contributed to a lot of the flooding out there. So anytime we end up with a very unusual stretch of weather, and then today it was very windy and there were fires in a lot of places. I was just looking, they said there was one out by Cushing, Oklahoma, wildfire. People are with the winds, and it's been so dry. These things could really be a problem. And then early voting, like Leslie said, it starts tomorrow and it runs up through Saturday. And we've got people around the state. We've got a collection of people together to report issues on election day, dropping things in the chat that they would like to do. We're trying to get some things published in the state, lists and things for people that they can do on election day or to work up to the election. It is specific to Oklahoma. Every state is different and they will have different laws. But one thing everybody should have, and I want to remind everybody about this, go to your polling place when you do vote, whether it's early voting or whether you go on election day. I'm planning on going on election day, but barring that, I have to go check out one of the early voting sites and check on the procedures and things. But I just want to see and observe and see how they're handling this, because we're going to have multiple different ballots in these places and making sure people get the correct ballot. We've had issues with that in Oklahoma before, to see how they, may be handling it now. Hopefully there won't be any issues. But one thing everybody should take with them to the polling place when they go vote, make sure your sheriff's office number, not 911, not the emergency number, but the office number is in your phone before you go, or your local police department, whoever handles your complaints. Because if you do have a problem with voting, and I think we went through this the last time we had a podcast, but there are multiple issues where you should be reporting to your sheriff and making sure you get a complaint filled out, because you want this on record and you want to have an affidavit. But in order to do that, you're going to need to have the sheriff's number in your phone, and make sure you don't leave the polling place before they come. What you want to do is try to solve the problem at the polling place. Make sure you can't call your county election board. If they solve the problem, that's great. Then your issue's resolved, and hopefully, you should not leave without casting your vote. If you are a qualified elector in your state and you have a voter registration card, or you are on the voter registration rolls, do not leave your polling place without voting. Okay, so the times, though, that you want to call your sheriff, we'll go over this one more time. If somebody told you already voted and you did not order an absentee ballot, you've not been in the polling places to vote, call the sheriff. That could be seen as identity theft potentially, but make sure you fill out a report. If they close the polls early, and I see some information coming out of Pennsylvania today that there are places, there are early voting in Pennsylvania. There are places that got shut down. They were trying to shut them down at about 2 o'clock this afternoon, possibly. So that's not good. If you're unable to cast a ballot and you're a qualified elector, if you're denied access to vote, call the sheriff. If they claim you're not registered, but you know you are, call your sheriff. Witnessing illegal activity in the polling place, if you go in to vote and you notice something going on that's illegal. If you're told they ran out of ballots, and somebody was talking about this, right? Early on, they're being shuffled around in Nevada. Don't come back tomorrow. If you come back, if they send you a polling place, this is early voting. If they told you they ran out of ballots, call the sheriff. If the observers are kicked out, in Oklahoma, we are not allowed to have poll watchers during voting times, but candidates can call for watchers, and they should come in before the polls open and then after the polls close.
Wendy,
but in other states,
Wendy, I gotta do a quick thing real quick. Brandy,
sure.
Ohio's helping Valerie and I out with hosting. We gotta step away for a little while, maybe 20 minutes, but continue. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Ashley. If you experience political intimidation, you should call the sheriff. If you're forced to vote provisionally, if you know that you haven't voted yet, and you walk in and they try to make you vote provisional, but you know that you're registered, your registration's legitimate, everything, and you've not sent in an absentee ballot. If they're forcing you to try to vote provisional, and some of those provisional ballots go into adjudication and somebody will decide whether or not they're going to count your vote, make sure you call your sheriff and report that. And then if there are any major system malfunctions like Brandy was having in Ohio, where the machines are just messing up or messing around, or they report things wrong, or what you voted for is not what comes out on that slip of paper, or the machine switches when you voted for, let's just say, for example, this has happened as well. A Democrat goes in and votes for Harris and it flips to Trump. They've had that happen. Okay, so if that happens, if your machines go down, if there are major system malfunctions, call the sheriff and make sure you get that documented. What you want and your goal with this should be to get an official report of what's going on with law enforcement agencies. That is the purpose of calling the sheriff. Hopefully they can help resolve the problem. But getting that on paper legally, filling out an affidavit, having all that and keeping it and hanging on to it, your election integrity people report it to all of your officials, your representative, your senator, your attorney general, your governor, but also find your election integrity group in your state, share the information with them. It's my understanding there will be groups that will be asking for any evidence that you may have that there were irregularities or issues or outright things that could be considered fraud going on in the election. So that's why you want to do this. And we have, actually, if you all here have heard it, Seth, you've heard of Seth Keschel. His Substacks, he has a for the swing states, I believe, they've done a list of county sheriff's numbers. We've worked one up for Oklahoma. You guys may be able to take that in a template in your state and hopefully get that around in your state as well. So not just the battlegrounds, but all states should have this information. And we've used that and we've credited his Substack for that work. But we've worked that up for Oklahoma already. Just make sure for this election, you guys are ready to go. Like I said, we've got a chat with about almost 70 people across the state of Oklahoma that'll report to me in the chat what's going on. We have a publication going out, my email address. I'm even putting out my cell phone number, you guys, so people can call and report. I'm not going to answer my phone, but they can either leave, I'm asking them to text on election day. So we still have to collect information and like Derek said, the election integrity people still need to be, regardless of what else is going on, collecting reports across their state on all of the things that could happen. We don't know what's going to happen on election day. So hopefully everything goes smoothly, but you know, I mean, we're living in bizarre world at the moment, you guys, so who knows what's going to happen. But I'm going to let Leslie take back over. But that's pretty much, you know, there's all kinds of issues going on across the country right now. It's almost too much to report on. Just know that there are the same old. All the same strategies and tactics that were used in 2020 are being rolled out again. And why is that? It's because most of the states did not do anything, like Ashley said, did not do anything to correct the issues in 2020. So we're going to see these things again. But here's the good part about that. There are far more people paying attention this time to what's going on. It's going to make a lot more sense to them because they've been listening to people like myself and others across the states. And in every state, we have election integrity people. But they've been listening to us for the past 3.5 years. And they're going to know, they're going to see these things and go, oh, wow, you know, I was told that might happen. I know what that means. This is not good. So that's the good part about this. But keep your eyes open. If you see something, say something, especially at the polling place on election day, you guys, there are threats. Don't be afraid to go out there and vote, though, on election day. The odds of something happening at your precinct when you're there voting are very minuscule. So make sure you go out and cast your ballot no matter what. And hopefully the issues in Oklahoma, we've got weather coming in tomorrow, severe storms. Here in Oklahoma, we've had our power knocked out sometimes for up to a week at a time in some places. So I'm a little wary of what's going on, especially with the issue with the potential for weather warfare that we suspect may be happening. I mean, it's a little crazy out there, but just make sure. And hopefully, Ashley, I'm going to talk to Ashley about getting something up so you guys can report to Ashley what's going on election day in your state, and he can get the information to me. And I'll be available if you guys have anything that you need to report or you need help on or you have a question. I may not be familiar exactly with your state, but at least maybe I can try to point you in the right direction on where you can go to report things like I'm doing now. Like right now, I'm telling you, report to your sheriff, you know, that's going to be the type of information you're going to get from me. So hopefully, like I said, things go well. I know we're all worried about this election, but you know what? We also all know, Red America First, God's in control of everything. No matter what people plan, you know, God will laugh. And, you know, who knows what could happen on election day. It could be really great. If it's not going to be boring, it's definitely not going to be boring. That I assure you.
Well, you know, what's unique about my situation is that I'm actually working the polls. The election thing, you know, I signed up and I'm getting paid by the government to work it, you know, the machines. And so like I'll be watching in the back of like 5 machines or something like that. So I wonder if I'll see any weird shit happening, you know?
Yeah, if you do, Sandra, make sure you get that to Ashley so he can get it to Dr. Frank. You know, I mean,
Yeah, I
Ashley's
know.
got Dr. Frank's
Yeah.
information. Ashley, I think he's trying to get a hold of Seth Keschel, so he might be able to email him, you know, with some things that
Yeah.
are going on. I believe he's got a podcast he's doing live. Larry talked about it when Larry Schweikert was here. on election night. They're going to be going for 5 or 6 hours or something. So, make sure
I know Dr.
Nevada's a
Frank.
battleground.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I remember Dr. Frank from, I think he was one of the people that presented that the fraud, election fraud in Georgia to Kemp and the whole committee that time when, that was when the pillow guy, my pillow guy, he was with him. And they did it, and I saw it on TV, the whole presentation, showing them all the evidence. And so Kemp said that day, okay, so we're going to do a special investigation or something like that, right? There was a name for it. So the next day, Kemp's daughter's boyfriend that worked for the, in the campaigning area, was killed in a car accident. His car blew up out of nowhere. And that was like a sign. And then all of a sudden Kemp pulled back and said, we're not going to do that. I changed my mind. We're not going to do the investigation. But I remember Dr. Frank because he had all that information. I saw details, all kinds of stuff, hours and hours of it, It was really interesting.
Yeah, they have a lot of evidence out of Georgia for 2020. There's actually a lot of evidence across the country. And
I know
getting it in front of people has been the challenge that are, in office right now, because the legislators are the ones that need to act, to be honest with you, because each state is in charge of their own elections and the federal government can only do so much. So the state legislatures have to address all of this. And when they
we know that.
What do you do?
That's very true, but the thing is that that we know that, but these people, they think they literally have these people, they have lied to them, and they literally have them believing that we lost, that the court found there was no evidence and there was blah 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 like that. But really, the court just didn't want to hear it. So it's not like we went and got to present it or anything like that. But there's so many people that the government has convinced that, there was no evidence. Look, they lost. Well you didn't lose.
Yeah. You just have to tell them.
Didn't get a chance to speak, about it. So it was bizarre. It's really messed up, if you ask me. I mean,
well, what you can say and what you can tell them is very simple, and that is there's been no evidence heard in a court of law regarding election fraud for 2020 because the cases were dismissed on standing. They were not dismissed because of
that's exactly true. Yes, I know that.
Standing.
Yes,
and so. This time, though, it's my understanding that going across the country, they're trying to establish standing going in, or they know more about it now and about what needs to be done. So,
we've learned more over the years, for sure.
And I'm hoping
there's more people that are aware. Like you said, there are much more people aware now than there were watching back in 2020. Because everybody all of a sudden is okay, now people are getting in groups and watching stuff. So they really have to be sly to pull something off without getting caught by somebody.
Right.
So, I mean, I just feel like that there's a lot of people watching it now. It's going to be very hard for them to cheat.
Yeah, well, I hope so. And I'm hoping that the states can actually do something as well. Because the states weren't able to sue each other over their election practices. That's got to stop. Okay, so Brandy, sorry, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I thought Mark had a question way earlier. He had his hand up. I don't know if he still has a question for you because you were talking about some things and we got onto that. So I don't know if Mark still has a question, but if you do, Mark, I'd like to open it up for you.
Thank you, Brandy. Actually, I don't have a question. I've got a statement. Alaska used to be a red state. And one thing I've noticed is the demon craps move from places they don't like to places they do like, and they turn around and vote like they did back home and turn the place they go to into the place they came from. And Anchorage is now a very liberal city, and we don't have a sheriff. We're not organized as a county. There is no sheriff here. And so I'm not sure who I would call. The local police department is under the mayor's office. And it's just kind of a strange setup. The demon craps have moved to Anchorage and pretty much ruined the city. And it's a liberal city now with an assembly that is totally leftist and doesn't make sense. And now a leftist mayor as well. And it's just getting worse over time.
So, how long has it been like that you've been without a sheriff? Do you know?
I don't remember ever having a sheriff in Anchorage during my lifetime, and I have been here since 1962.
Okay. Well, if that's not your, you don't have that go-to, you may want to try reaching out to even your state attorney general. They might be able to investigate something like that if you're having problems. Obviously, like Wendy was saying, you would definitely want to report it to your local police because that's what you have for law enforcement, obviously. But I would also reach out to your attorney general in your state if I was you.
I think the attorney general is probably a good recommendation because the police have been totally useless to me throughout my life. They've been more of a problem than a help.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a wild guess and think that most of the problems in Anchorage turned liberal about the time ranked choice voting came into the state. Is that about the time on that time frame?
Repeat that.
Ranked choice voting. Did you start
Yes.
having problems in Anchorage about the time? Did it flip about the time ranked choice voting came in?
No, it flipped long before that. Ranked choice voting's only been here for about 2 years, and there's another call to try to reverse ranked choice voting. There's a regular movement trying to reverse it back to the old election system. That's a whole argument as well.
Yeah, because you got to watch ranked choice because that's how they end up getting these candidates that don't have a chance, basically elected instead of the popular candidates. So it's a problem. But yeah, Alaska, I would do exactly what Brandy said. Make a report and report it to the Attorney General if there's anything going on that you notice that's going on with your elections, because a lot of times I tell people until we straighten up the elections, we don't know how people really feel in any given area. We don't know who's voting, to be honest with you. We don't know the makeup, and we don't know what the majority in that area really wants, because the elections have been manipulated for so long that we honestly have no idea who our neighbors are, what affiliation, how they're voting. I tell people don't go down the street and blame your neighbor for the election, because your neighbor may have voted the way you think they should have voted with their party, but there was an issue with their vote, with their ballot, because the machines, with the machines going in, with the absentee ballots, with the phantom voters, we have no idea what's going on in our elections. So we really can't say what the public is thinking in any one area of the country where election manipulation is going on. So we really have to straighten out the elections so that we know what people want, and we are electing our officials, because what does the Declaration of Independence say? Without consent of the governed, we do not have a legitimate government. So in order to have consent of the governed, you have to have clean, free, and fair and transparent elections. So, and Megeso wants to say something. So Megeso, what have you got?
is this going to offer if he's not confident with his local police, there's no sheriff, obviously Homeland Security or something? I always want to copy everybody, so go to the military. You feel there's shenanigans going on in Alaska. Reach out to anyone.
So who would
get
you
on
in the
record.
military, Migueso? Like, I mean, who would he call military if he were going to do that? Like, who
would I contact? It
like,
would be,
like in the military, like who would you contact if you were in?
I would either go to the adjutant general or somebody in the National Guard that's there. I don't know all the forces that are represented in Alaska.
They pretty much are. We've got an Air Force, a combined Air Force and Army base that is almost as large as Anchorage is. And I know we have National Guard. There are Navy recruiters here. I don't know if there's actual Navy. But yeah,
I would go with someone that's there, not the recruiters, but to the highest official you can get that on record with. Because even if we have corrupt military, at least you're getting things on record. Okay, so the idea is to you notify them you saw an inconsistency or something that wasn't right. Somebody has to look into it. If they don't, then it's still on record. And somebody will eventually look.
Yeah, and one other thing that's not right here is the federal government owns about 97% of the land in Alaska. Yeah. And there is not much of Alaska in private hands.
We know that we have the same thing in Hawaii, where your sister state, they think they own the land, they don't. This is back what we were talking about earlier with common law and things like that. We have to get back to the real law, not the legalese that was taught our lawyers at Harvard, Yale, and all these places over the years. That's not law.
I agree.
That was to confuse the people. We're supposed to be going into court on the level playing field by the law, common law, God's law, Creator's law. So this is why we need to get everything on record that we can, because we're taking down the existing systems that have enslaved us for a long period of time.
Yeah, I happen to personally have a situation that I own. I moved my property under the original land patent that it was surveyed under, and the municipality of Anchorage is refusing to accept my ownership of it under the land patent.
Well, you have a lot of corruption in Anchorage too.
And when and if I go to the court and try to quote the Constitution, they say the Constitution does not operate in the courtroom.
That's interesting that they say that.
Yeah, I think you could challenge that and just stand up. And the thing is, if you're going into the courtroom and you believe in what you're standing for, you would never agree with them on anything, because you're always in total opposition, and they're always trying to get you to obey. No, it's time for us, everyone, to stand in our truth, under our Creator, under what you believe, under your own self. Right? It's God, family, country. Right? This is what we're standing for. Tyranny is over.
Yeah, this is where you draw the line. You're right.
Yeah, draw the line.
So does anybody else have another topic they want to discuss in the Intel round this evening that they'd like to?
I'm here waiting.
Okay, go ahead.
I am normally a election day voter, but this year, well, I've been in Texas for about close to the last 3 weeks visiting my brother, but I'm driving home tomorrow to Oklahoma to vote in person with my sons Thursday. I don't know if it's been discussed in here about the Afghan refugee that was arrested for plotting polling place terrorist attack in Oklahoma.
Yeah,
So,
Connie,
sure.
it has been. It has been. We addressed it.
Okay. Well, and then there's a teenager that was found out that's connected with that guy as well. But anyways, I'm not a paranoid person, but with and the rumors about attacking, a cyber attack. I just don't want to leave it to chance Tuesday. So, anyways, I'm going in person Thursday to vote. I'm typically an election day voter, but I'm just not going to do. I'm going Thursday. And then so I've been out of state. So thanks for the heads up on tornado warning tomorrow. I did not know.
Yep.
So I texted my son and warned him.
I think that's wise that you're going early, because I do think some strange things might actually go on that we're not expecting. And so, take for that way.
This election is too important, just too important. The thought of us actually being able to elect Trump, I get so excited. But, anyways, so I'm just not going to chance it. I'm not a paranoid person. Don't take me wrong. I'm not, but I'm not going to chance it.
No, you're just being.
Well, the strategy of voting early is recommended right now. So, it's very, it's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
So
Trump himself is recommending that, is he not, in his rallies?
Yes.
Hey, Sandra, I want to commend you on being able to get in there as a poll worker, because several of us are blacklisted because of what we stand for. So whatever strategy you were able to do to get in, kudos to you.
Well, you know what? I've tried before, for the midterms and stuff like that, and couldn't get in. And I just figured that they have their own clique. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but they needed a lot of people for this. But the only thing they had available was the election day. I said I wanted to do like the other days too, the early voting days, but they were all full. So I think people are jumping to get in there.
Yeah.
And the place I voted at today, there were some pretty nice people there. I mean, they look like some. You know how you get a good vibe sometimes with some people, like you feel like they're Republicans, even though you don't know.
Right.
It's so yeah. It's I have a feeling it's going to be like packed that day though. It's going to be crazy.
So in your state of Nevada, do you what are your gun laws? Do you have concealed carry or open carry, or what is it?
I think they have concealed carry. They don't have open carry, I know that, but they do have concealed carry.
So Wendy, I want to take it over to you real quick. Do they allow people to come into the polls if they have the what do you call it, the means to protect themselves, so to speak? Can you conceal carry into the polls?
Well, here in Oklahoma, we're open carry, so don't even need to conceal carry. But here's the thing. A lot of polling places are private, like the churches, and they can determine whether or not, you are allowed to carry in their establishment. So it's up to, I believe, Don Spencer, Oklahoma Second Amendment Association, just got this clarified. It's up to the establishment. It's up to the place that's open as a polling place. So if they allow people to carry inside, yes, you can. If they don't, like some churches do not, we happen to know that Higher Plain Baptist Church, that we have plenty of events in. Pastor Vineyard there is open carry. He carries in his church, as a matter of fact, openly for reasons that he talks about, things that happened in his private life. He was actually attacked in his own home. So he's very big on people being able to protect them, defend themselves. So his church is a place where people are allowed to actually carry. But it is up to the individual place. If the church you go to has a thing, a sign outside that says you're not allowed to carry inside, then please respect that. and leave your weapon in your vehicle, I would suggest. But yes, in Oklahoma, it's up to the individual property and what the owner wants you to do.
Okay.
I'm going to add that I'm wearing my Trump hat out and about.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Good night, Rosemary.
Night, Rosemary.
Good night. Have a good night.
Good night. I actually heard that he actually got. They were told they weren't allowed to wear their Trump shirt into the polling place, and they just took it off.
I was just going to say that, Brandy. I saw that.
Yeah.
That,
You gotta
they had their hats.
turn
and
it
they-
inside out.
And then they asked for the manager, and then they did end up getting in, but it was ridiculous. I was like, oh my God.
They're not working for a campaign. I don't, I mean, that's just crazy. That's just crazy. I have a Seth Keshel election, what is it? End electile dysfunction shirt. I think I'm gonna wear that on election when I go in and vote. That's probably what I'm gonna be wearing. So I have another one. I have one that says live free or die. So Seth's been here a few times and we do know each other. But yeah, I mean, seriously, these are the things that make me crazy. I have a Trump girl. I have a shirt that says Trump girl on it. Are they not going to allow me in with that? I mean, come on, people. Really?
I thought it was funny with that lady, that older lady that went to the polls, and I guess she had a Trump shirt on. They said she couldn't wear it, so she took it off and voted in her bra.
I know, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah, that lady.
Oh,
that's awesome. That makes
I'm not doing that.
Okay,
on X.
I gotta show y'all. This is my new improved MAGA horn. This is what I use when I go out and peacefully protest. As you can see, I've decked her out.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. I was speaking of shenanigans at the polling place. I have to mention this one. So I think it was last week. Somebody in Ohio was at the polling place here in Franklin County and at the Board of Elections, and they snapped some lovely shots of pole dancers that were somehow invited to dance at the Board of Elections.
Where?
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, I'm like, really?
I saw
Okay,
that.
so that's allowed.
Wait a minute. Where was that?
Franklin County, Ohio, in Columbus, at our polling location for early voting.
They had them outside, right?
Yes, they were
pole
outside and they were
dancers.
dancing away, and there was a bus.
Yeah.
And it was on the
Holy cow.
to the polling place, because see, it's an old Kohl's department store is the Board of Elections, and that is like an international mall, like of different, and they're dancing right there on the line. The property line.
That is crazy.
Oh my goodness.
Nobody, I mean, wow.
Yeah.
Is there video of this somewhere?
No,
Maybe, I mean, I'm a really bad dancer. I
don't know where the video is, but apparently there is.
Nobody wants to see
It's going on.
I'm not want to see it. I'm thinking, nobody wants to.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
How would I voting anyway? I'm not really into that, no. It just doesn't go together. I just don't think of pole dancing when I go to the voting booth. So anyway.
No, that doesn't really go together. That's another reason why they're so idiotic.
Tacky.
Oh gosh. They don't have common sense. There you
They're
go.
trying to lure their people to the polls with pole dance. Really?
You know what I saw that really annoyed me today? Listen to this.
Oh my gosh.
I saw on Twitter somebody posted a video of these people that were at the poll. What the hell was I going to say? I forgot. Damn it. That gummy must be taking effect.
Brandy, I'm back.
Yes,
Valerie and I are back. If you needed to go to bed, but you're doing a good job. Keep it up.
Oh yes, thank you.
I know what I saw. There was a group of people like this lady leading these these people in to vote, and they were all foreign. And she was like the interpreter, and she was interpreting, and there was like 10 or 20 of them, something like that. and they were all following her. And she probably had, I think they all had a paper in their hand and they all had, knew what to vote for and stuff. I think that's a little messed up, but I know companies do that with foreigners. I know they do that. And so do unions. Unions will print. I was walking today, my dog in my neighborhood, and I picked up a little card, like the size of a business card, but it was a 4-fold thing, and it had the culinary union and the choices that you're supposed to vote for of all the names of the people that you should vote for, and all the answers on the questions yes or no at the end. A cheat sheet. You carry it in your palm, you take it in there, and that's what they were handing out to their union employees.
Wow. We have something similar in Oklahoma right now, because I'm telling you, we've got too many races going on that people could get mixed up. We've got judges up and people get mixed up. Do we retain them? Are these the ones we want to retain? Are these the ones we want to get rid of? I mean, to the point where, people have been sending these out. So people may walk in Oklahoma with a sheet into the polling place so they can keep straight who they want to keep and who they want to retain. People can vote how they want, but they can, they may refer to it. It's a reference sheet.
Well, I wrote a piece of paper. I took my list in. I used it. But what I'm saying is that they're giving them and directing them on what to vote because they are foreign is what that's exactly the idea. That's I don't like that.
Right. That's not
I don't like that.
They don't speak the language. I mean, there are people
and I don't like when unions direct democratic views. I mean, it's to me, it's you've got a union, that at a company that says you can't talk politics at, right? You're not allowed to. You'll get written up. You'll get fired. You're not allowed to. That's the rule. But yet the union in there will bring in a paper or a flyer and hang it on the wall that has written all of the things that is wrong with Trump and worse. You know what I'm saying? So it's totally baffles me that union head did not even get in trouble for that. I mean, to me, look, we're not allowed to talk politics. You got to follow the rules too. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I am for the union. Don't get me wrong. I like the union protection for, especially being a dealer. That's a good protection. It's needed. But the thing is like when it comes to presidential elections, unions piss me off.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like rules for thee and not for me. I mean, just stuff like that can be irritating, but
it is.
Yeah. Where do you deal, Sandra? Can you say?
I don't deal anymore. I quit a few years ago, but
where were you? I've been to Vegas a few times. Huh?
The Wynn Resorts.
Oh, Wynn? Really?
And Holly's still there. So
the main one or the encore? Oh, okay.
No, the main Wynn.
Sandra?
Okay, yeah, I've been there a couple of times.
We are actually wanting to do a girls' night weekend. I've never been to Vegas, and I want to bring Wendy and several others to Vegas and stay at the Trump Hotel. Are you in?
Yeah. I've always wanted to go to the Trump Hotel. It's right across the street from the Wynn.
Okay.
But I heard it was nice.
It is.
But every day on my way home from work, I passed the Trump Hotel. And it was nice, so it was like a neat skyline to look at when I was driving by.
And it's at the very end of the strip. You see it.
It's beautiful, guys. And Leslie and team, listen.
We're out there because we're going to be out there.
We're going to have like 6
meetings out there.
3 to 6 times that we're going to be already going out there.
Okay.
And we're going to start going out there January, and then I think there's one in April, one in June, one in July, one in August, and then we're going to be there in October for like a whole week. So we all need to coordinate this, and if we coordinate it enough in advance, people have been telling me they wanted a Red America First kind of like get together for a long time. So these people could plan to meet us all there. So
That would be awesome.
Yeah, and I guess
and
we could
we
drive
actually,
out.
because we've been there so many times last year, we actually went to we didn't stay at the Trump Hotel, but we went to the Trump Hotel and we went in it. And, that he's not allowed to have a casino there.
Yeah, Sandra's got the skinny on that, so then she could go on.
But the cool thing is it's a big, I don't want to say a bad word, but it's a big middle finger to the deep state, because every time you're on the strip and you look down to the right, you see the Trump Hotel.
The Trump Hotel's right there. So I do want to comment that this very show that Valerie and I are talking about, we're going to be going to Vegas a lot in 2025. But just last week we did it in Glendale.
That's where we were at the ITC.
And I sound like crap because I caught a bug over there, and a lot of people have caught some kind of like their throats are getting scratchy, and my lymph nodes were swollen like little golf balls. But anyway.
Man.
Anyway, so if my voice sounds kind of down the dumps, that's why. So let's plan this. Let's make it happen. I would prefer to do it in the fall or the spring and avoid the summertime just because it's too hot there.
Summer sucks. Yeah,
Okay.
summer's terrible.
I want to throw this out too. When Trump does win, we all need to go to the inauguration. We need a plan to go together.
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, listen, we had tickets to the inauguration. We went, and we were the first people behind all the sitting crowd. So the sitting crowd, family of the Congress people. Yeah, we got tickets to it.
You just contact your congressperson, and then they give you tickets.
Well, we were part of the campaign though.
Well, we were, and yes, we were definitely part of that because that's what we do. But
so let's plan it, guys, and let's also pray every hour from now until the polls close that they don't
try to steal it. In my opinion, I think it's going to be just like 2020. But I think people now are aware to look at their votes, how the vote went through, and Trump's brought a lot of awareness to people and education on, this didn't work out right. I love Wendy's advice, like call your sheriff, but what if you have a bad sheriff? What if your sheriff is corrupted? Because there is still that going on in our country.
So that's a good point. But I want to bring up some good data.
I want to hear what she says about that.
About Arizona that I forgot to tell everybody. Okay, just real quick. The Arizona.
I didn't mean to take over, guys. Sorry.
Arizona early voting update that we Republicans are leading the Democrats. So we have 683,000 votes. The Democrats have 554. So we're looking good.
He's showing, and this early voting is showing how many people really support Trump before the election, so that when they try to steal it, people are going to be like, wait a minute, it's so obvious that they cheated to steal it.
Even in heavy hurricane hit areas like North Carolina, they came out in droves to vote for Trump. Yeah. Also,
really?
Yeah. Did y'all hear too about them? These idiotic people are setting ballot boxes on fire.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was a real video or not. I was like questioning it, like if that was like, because it was like bizarre. That thing was burning like hell. Like it was like just crackling like weirdly.
But what's crazy about it, Sandra, is they're setting the ballot boxes on fire in the areas that she supposedly won in.
Yeah, it's Washington State or something.
And we don't usually Republicans don't use ballot boxes,
right?
You know what surprises me is that ahead of me in the voting.
We got to talk about the active shooter in Atlanta.
Listen, hang on.
Okay.
Hang on. Ahead of me in the voting thing, there were two people, and they had their ballots with them, and they were just sticking them in the box. And I was like thinking, if you went to the trouble to come up here, why don't you just go and vote in person instead of using that damn mail-in ballot. I don't like that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
Valerie,
I don't
agree.
know.
Now let's talk about the active shooter. Yeah, we agree with you, Senator. Let's talk about the active shooter that happened in Atlanta today. Okay,
I
the
didn't hear.
Four Seasons Hotel.
Four Seasons Hotel, Atlanta.
Let's discuss it. Leslie McGay and Senator, go ahead.
Okay, so what I heard or what I read is the guy barricaded himself in his hotel and he was throwing stuff out the window. So obviously, I'm going to go ahead and say it. I think he was MK Ultra to carry out what he was trying to do in that hotel.
How old was he?
I'm not sure. I don't think they released that. At least I didn't see anything about that.
And throwing what out? Was he young? Was he old? I mean, what was he throwing out the window?
Let me pull up the
furniture.
Hey, someone did throw a TV out of a Vegas hotel, but I thought there was gunfire from the top.
Okay, hang on.
That's why most windows don't open in Vegas. You can't open a window in Vegas usually when you're that high, except for
Someone broke the window and they threw a TV out of it. They were pissed off about some bet they lost. For real.
Yeah, no, you know what? I heard that the suicide rate in because people come here to end it, you know. But I heard the suicide rate is very high, but they keep all that a secret because they don't want. Remember? They don't want anybody to know about all the suicides that happen here because this is a very prime place for suicide.
Okay, so it says he was masked and he opened fire at the Four Seasons in Midtown. He threw furniture off the balcony. So yeah, that's what it says right here. He threw furniture off the balcony.
So did he shoot? What did he shoot at?
So it said it is 70 years old. He was taken into custody. He was spraying bullets from his 33rd floor balcony and hurling furniture into the street below. They're saying he had a mental breakdown. That's what they're saying.
Well, it must have been TDS.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I see stuff like that. I think COVID shots.
What's TDS?
Drug derangement system. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I think, guys, they've proven that those vaccines actually damage brains at this point. So I think we're going to see a lot of crazy stuff start happening, unfortunately, due to the vaccines. And they are actually telling elderly people now that they need to get 2 more shots. I mean, it's unconscionable what's going on.
I know you drive up to the grocery store here, and on the side, like where you're driving along the building, there's like signs spaced 1 foot apart from each other. Flu shots here, flu shots here. I mean, how many do they need to put up to get your attention? Ridiculous. They're a foot away from each other, sticking in the ground at blue signs with some kind of, I think blue signs, but anyway, yeah, it's just ridiculous. I'm just like, God, okay already.
Yeah,
Stop it.
Yeah, I walked into, I grocery shop at the Walmart up here. I would love to local grocery shop, but we don't really have any local grocery shops here. And
this is interesting. So
I walked in and they were doing a flu shot thing as soon as you walked in the door. I'm like, yeah, no.
So they're saying officers originally responded to the call as a mental health emergency in the residential part of the building on the 33rd floor.
Right.
Well, Wendy, I think you're right. It is the vaccines. We are going to have a lot of mental illness in and around this election. I mean, the deep state goal was depopulation primarily to begin with. Mm-hmm. And Trump had warned them any time they could give up because they're in checkmate, but they're going to go to the last breath, if you would, and offer up as many sacrifices to the devil that they can. And
Miguel,
that's just, they're just evil people.
Disgusting.
Miguel, so we're going to end the live stream. Before we end the live stream, what is something that you would tell newcomers to come join our town hall? What would you tell them?
Well, I mean, this is the town hall format is the best way to go these days. And most of our guests that have come on, from Derek to General Flynn to other guests, have all said they love the town hall format. It does give you a chance to interact yourself. I mean, we always say we want to get involved in government or get involved with knowledge, just achieving knowledge. If we never get to answer the questions, you go to a event, they always have you write questions on papers, and then they scrutinize them, and your question never gets asked. This is a format where your question can get asked and hopefully answered. So that's why I think the town hall format and being a part of Red America First and the Christian values that we support and promote, there's no other better place to be than here.
Perfect. That's Red America First